Ah, You're watching Suck Professor. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank. I'm joined by
James.
James. Welcome, everybody, to our Valheim studio. Welcome back for our four times a year podcast or whatever it is that we do. We're checking in to share with everybody, our lovely, wonderful fans. I like to think of them as a community of heroes with huge genitals. So thank you for tuning in, guys. We're going to share about talk about some of the shows and movies and crap that we've been watching. Sort of our beat here on Suck Professor, and of course we're using our Valheim studio here very, very poorly. I've honestly have not played this game in a while. So we're big topics here: Starfield, One Piece, and a bunch of kind of rundown of just some shows we've sort of watched and some movies we've watched. We're just gonna let it rip. We've sort of have a little bit of a plan, but not really. James has been playing Starfield and stuff. But first of all, before I've just been rambling here, James, say hello to everybody, James. While I put the head
hello.
back. Oh, he's back. There's James Bjorn yesterday trying to sit down.
Yep.
So yeah, just been scrambling around. When you don't do the podcast regularly, everything is feels brand new when you do it again. So totally screwed up. But don't forget to like and subscribe, as you can see on screen there, everybody. See how it says it right there? That's right. That's really going to boost the numbers. James, you said hello already?
Oh, yep.
All right.
I'm here.
How have you been? Tell everybody, how are you? Is your heart still working?
Oh, no, that stopped a while ago. So I've been dead for a couple of months now. It's been going pretty well, you know.
Yep.
No, everything's fine. No changes. It's going to be a boring experience for the rest of my life until it dies of natural causes. But aside from that, the heart journey is done.
Nice. James, do you think when you die, it's a terrifying feeling of panic, or do you think you just kind of go like, and then you just sort of pass out real quick?
I think it really depends on how you die, the
Yeah.
circumstances surrounding it, how prepared you are, and what your general belief system is going into it.
Yeah. I think the ideal situation is to be dying of old age, fucked up on morphine, surrounded by your hot granddaughters.
Oh, morphine is great.
Yes,
I can tell
totally.
you that.
That's right. So yeah, you had big heart surgery. You know how good morphine is.
Maximum dose of morphine and
Yeah.
vitamin at the same time.
Little
I recommend it.
little Taliban juice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So James, death is scary. I often picture myself trapped in on the roof, not on the roof, but like in a car that's flipped over with my neck like broken. Like the worst way to die is to be severely wounded, but not enough that you're in shock or passed out. Like if you're just sitting there in a car, like, and you die of thirst with a broken neck.
Yeah. Like, something that we both saw. I don't think we mentioned that we were going to talk about this, but the reimagining of The Stand. A certain character goes out kind of like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
All right.
remember the accident, the impalement?
No. Oh yeah, I do now. Yeah, The Stand. Yeah, that's right. So The Stand on Amazon. We could bring that up today. We don't have to go into super detail. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that Stand. I don't want to do spoilers just yet, though. That's why I'm kind of like
Well, I
pushing
mean,
it off
The
a little.
Stand has been out since like 1987 or so, and that part of the story hasn't changed. So I don't think anyone's gonna. It's like
Fair.
Darth Vader at this point.
I know, but if someone hears this and thinks they're going to go watch the show, that's still a spoiler to start giving up plot stuff. That's all, and that's why I'm okay with spoiling.
Yeah.
But I just feel like we owe the audience a warning in terms of that. That's where I'm coming from. But I agree with you. It has been out since 1987. Like, spoiler alert, everybody, Ronald Reagan got shot. No, Hank, you ruins history for me. Jimmy Carter's still alive. Who the fuck knew that? What a crazy man. Turns out being a construction hunk is the secret to longevity. What am I doing? Go ahead. What?
He owned a peanut farm too, right?
Yes.
Ah.
He did own a peanut farm. I think they made him give it up because when he became president, because it represented a conflict of interest to have a president who has active business activity in the country that he governs. Unlike today's, or at least Trump, who was selling, it's like the corruption of that guy who owned hotels right down the street from the Congress and was like profiting off of selling Secret Service hotel accommodations or everywhere he traveled. Like, talk about a contrast. Not that I'm a big Jimmy Carter defender or stan or whatever they call that, but yeah, we've come a long way since then.
And his wife was Wonder Woman, right?
Yes. Yep. Linda Carter, lesbian icon. Jimmy Carter,
Yep.
gay icon. The two of them brought it all up to speed where it should be. Equal rights for everybody, okay, motherfuckers. Yeah, all right. So yeah, okay, this is why I couldn't get ahead. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Starfield. I know James has a lot of strong feelings about Starfield, which is gonna be fun. God, I loved One Piece, but I just want to invite anybody who wants more of me. Go to Winners and Losers. Check the description. I've been doing my my kind of political sort of rambly comedian guy podcast very poorly. I mean, I think I'm funny. I think I'm interesting. I try, and I'm saying that out loud because you're supposed to, like, anybody who does a show or anything on the internet. Of course, they think they're interesting. You're bullshitting if you don't. I do a solo podcast where I ramble about politics and bullshit. Mostly I ramble about how my beard is falling out and autism and other stuff like that because I can't stop myself from talking about things that are in my head. So, but check out Winners and Losers, guys, on YouTube. Help me grow. We're almost at 200 subscribers, and I'm trying to build out a Patreon. I need some health care for my body that's rejecting all my hair and my wrists that don't work. And yeah. And also, my poor roommate deserves a roommate who isn't me and isn't stressed out all the time about money and a fucking annoying piece of shit. Right, James?
I wouldn't put it quite like that, but I would like you to get healthcare as well.
Yes, yes. And I do actually, just a moment of gratitude. James, I'd be languishing in homelessness. Although that does actually sound like a threat. Like, you kick me out and I'll be homeless. You want that on your consciousness? Like, that's abusive, actually, what I just did
I'll
there.
poop
So.
on the sidewalk. Right out front.
And I won't even. And someone and yeah, it's hard if your poop looks like dog poop. That's a pretty healthy looking, but human poop is boy, that is its own thing.
You could just like get a paintbrush and write, what you did in your own poop across the
Yes,
side of the building.
right. And hopefully there's enough left for like an eye roll emoji, but drawn out in poops. Yeah. All right. So good. Let's get to the stuff. I think let's do the little ones first, and like kind of the big pieces are Starfield and One Piece. And then maybe to get into Starfield, we'll talk about Unity, which is like this software thing that you brought up.
Yeah, there have been updates about that lately too, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. So movies, man. When was the last time we did this? It's been a while. Why don't we just talk? Well, let's do shows and movies, but let's start with shows since you already brought up
Jurassic
Stan.
Park. Since the last time we did it, Schindler's List, Braveheart.
My favorite. I watched. I did actually check out. I watched Schindler's List the other week, and when you hit play on it now, you get a voice that goes, "Watch till the end."
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Please tell me you're not serious.
No, it goes. A bad font pops up, and it goes, "Watch till the end." And then I'm like, "Well, now I gotta watch." No, I'm kidding.
That sounds like some horrible. Oh, thank God!
Yeah,
that TikTok voice. You'll never believe what happens. I cannot tell you how much I hate that voice. I don't care if it is a video of the Pope casting down magical healing light and curing a person with leprosy. I hear that voice, downvote, skip.
Yeah, the Pope. Yeah, Pope it's real self-conscious when he gets filmed doing magic healing.
Oh yeah.
Please do not molest the kids. Stop molesting the kids. We don't really want to stop because we get the tax-free property rights and all over the world.
Yeah. He gets first dibs.
Centuries-long global child abuse organization. Yeah, they don't do much healing there. They do, but I bet they do have a lot of cool like old books. They've got like secrets and alien bodies and other stuff in their basement. Like the Vatican is filled with stuff that no one ever sees. There's a lot of backroom stuff in the world.
Yeah, I think they pretty much like for us to believe that they have more interesting things than they do. I mean, the world is a pretty boring place when it comes to the supernatural because there is nothing that's supernatural. It's just pretending that your little tchotchkes and baubles have greater meaning than they do. I mean, come on.
That's true. Well said, and a worthwhile point. But I mean, nevertheless, though, there are historical artifacts that are definitely not to be seen for light. I started reading this one book called The Swerve, which is about this monk. He was the Pope's secretary, but it was like the Pope's like number two, like the guy, like the hand of the king, basically. But that Pope gets deposed, so this guy needed. This is not where. And this dude goes looking for this manuscript from a Greek philosopher that it was like 14th century dude, and because literacy wasn't very common, so this guy he got into all these monasteries looking for this one book, and it was a theorized complete work that there was a complete work out there because they had found fragments of this philosopher from Greek times that had referenced the accurately. What am I trying to say? the dramatic claim, I guess, because they didn't prove it. It was just like a guess, but was that the world is made of tiny individual small bits that no one can see, is what this Greek guy had said. And that was very threatening to the Catholic and Christian order of Europe during the centuries. But there had been fragments of this guy's work discovered from Roman antiquity. And so this book, The Swerve, is about this monk, or no, not this Pope's buddy who lost his job and then went looking for a complete manuscript of this Greek philosopher's work. And he actually found it buried in a monastery somewhere in Europe. Did that make sense at all?
No, is this fiction or is this
No,
based on
it's a real
actual
story.
events?
Yeah, the guy's name was like Pago. He had like a funny name, but yeah, it was a real dude. He was but he was a learned man with like connections, so he was able to get access to these monasteries where they, among the few places where they sort of had stored tomes. Back in the day, like the Necronomicon kind of thing,
Yes.
like books were like giant leather bound weird crazy things, and very few people could read anyway. So
Yeah. I
but
mean, it does sound very plausible that they would have a collection behind lock and key of all the things that have been confiscated and stamped out over history because
yeah,
it threatened their absurd belief system, which basically contributed to their wealth and their power. So
exactly.
that is not at all hard to believe.
Yes, information's a threat to the establishment as usual. So, yeah. Anyway, get your vaccines, everybody. For God's sakes, take your fucking don't be a fucking idiot. Yeah. All right. This is how you. This
They
is
had
how
the
you do it.
vaccines in that vault too.
Yeah. This guy Pago was looking for the vaccines and stuff. Yeah, the book's called The Swerve. It's like a philosophical kind of thing. This one guy told me about it. He gave me the copy of it. He's like, "You were talking about this. Here, I got you this book." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever. Okay, where am I at? This is all just coming back." So, what show did you say you were just talking about?
Huh?
Had we
No,
started?
no, I was waiting to see which one you wanted to
Okay.
do first.
Okay. Well, The Stand. Then you brought up The Stand. We don't need to go detailed, but I started watching The Stand on Amazon, and I vaguely recalled the miniseries, which is kind of a big deal in the world of
Yeah, I think it
television.
was 94 or so, if I'm remembering
Yeah.
correctly, somewhere around that time.
Right. Yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure I read the book to its entirety back then. But I know you read it all, and you have a much better memory for stuff that you consume than I do. So
Yeah,
I
I
got
mean
you
the
to
only
watch
thing
The
I
Stand.
can
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean the only thing I can say about it is I watched the whole thing. I've seen the miniseries. I've read the book. Um, I do not understand why it got greenlit. I don't know why they felt like this particular story needed to be remade in a way that was arguably, in a lot of ways, worse than the original adaptation of it. I
Right.
think one of the most important characters in the entirety of the storytelling, although it's not my favorite character, had to be nuanced and had to be kind of straddling the line of good and evil in order for the decisions this character to make to have an impact. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I hate Amber Heard for what she did, that she's a liar, a manipulator, an outright horrible human being. It has nothing to do with that. I just think that she completely dropped the ball on this role. Either
Oh,
that or the direction that was given to her was completely off point.
was she the? Wait. So you're referring though to the why what was greenlit was the 2019 or 20? It was 2019, right? Or
Yes.
20? Yeah. So
Yes.
the recent one, the
I don't
7 or 8
see.
episode Amazon series, not
Right.
the
It did.
1993 one, obviously.
Right. It did everything the prior iteration did, just worse.
Oh,
So I just don't understand why this became an interesting prospect of a project for a studio at this point in time.
I don't know. I mean, they like to make Stephen King stuff into shows. A lot of those things, especially The Stand, seems like one of the more prominent ones. Yeah, I didn't even know that was Amber Heard at all. I don't really give. I don't have much of an opinion about any of that. It seemed like when that whole trial was going on, it was a cultural lens into the various ways people perceive and are receiving information. I didn't get. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I think she did a lot to set back, I think, the belief in women when they say that they've been abused. You should always believe a person when they claim to be abused. And when someone comes out and is proven beyond a reasonable doubt to have fabricated everything, that just is a disservice to everyone. So I am no fan of her.
yeah, I don't have any. I don't have a. That's fine. I don't know. I think that my take, my sense is that that was a very complex dynamic relationship with two troubled people that became a public thing that got in. But once it became like a cultural phenomenon, it became a creature of like the greater cultural dynamic forces at play. I didn't follow all the details though. It doesn't seem like Johnny Depp was a great guy either in any of that situation. So some of these, like not every, like a lot of relationships are multifaceted and stuff. So I don't know
She took
enough
a
about
dump
it
in his bed.
to what.
She took a dump in his bed. That's all you
Mhm.
need to know.
Well, that's fine.
She's
Well,
not
sometimes
well
people
put
deserve
together.
sometimes people deserve to have a big stinking pile of Duke on their bed. Maybe he was asking for it. What was he wearing? I know what he was wearing: rings and a weird scarf, and probably a frown. All right. Well, I don't give a shit about that, honestly. I mean, sorry, not about your opinions. I just mean like she wasn't that big of a character. She was like a in the show, but
No, she was like one of the main characters.
yeah, there was like
That
12 main
character,
characters.
right? But hers is one of the most significant, prominent.
Yeah.
Her role, per the book, required the most acting ability out of any of the other ones because she had to, go from good to bad to bad to good to good to bad to that kind of thing.
Oh,
It was a much more demanding role than the other ones, I felt, and she just did not have the chops for it.
wasn't she just like a piece of? Did she just turn coats on the? I don't even remember much of it.
No, I mean,
the bad guy was the hot Swedish dude. Oh, there's sulfur. We got fight. We got to go kill people.
just what did you rip one?
Yes, but that's not related to the game. We got these little flame fuckers.
Smell of sulfur in the air.
Yeah.
This is the
We've
mentioned
been invaded.
Amber crapping a bed, and suddenly it smells like the sky turns amber and farts.
Yeah, I found the animosity towards Amber to be actually kind of very off-putting that I noticed that I got picked up on. I felt like there was a lot of internalized misogyny flowing through the internet at her in ways that seemed to me like it wasn't grounded in all that. But I get that it was a very public trial that animated a lot of people's preconceptions for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever have the chance to watch a documentary on it or any clips of the trial, you'll see exactly why there's animosity.
Yeah, she is right. Fair enough, but
what she did was reprehensible. I don't care if she's a man or a woman, if she's a celebrity or not. A person like that, just horrific.
Yeah, there's that's fine. I get it. I'm not defending anything, and I'm speaking from ignorance, so my opinion should not be weighted much. But we got to kill these people around here. But it's a world that's very hostile towards different types of people. I guess is my way of thinking about it. But whatever, who cares? We're not doing the Amber Heard podcast. That's our other YouTube channel. The movie stars a bunch of big names, though. Whoopi Goldberg is in it. She plays the magic black lady who lives in the cornfield, but then they end up in Colorado.
What? Yeah, so they did change something along that respect. I believe in the book what happened was that they met up with her, and then I think she was in the Nebraska cornfield or there, and then they traveled with her to Colorado to a compound where everyone else kind of congregated.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, she sends out her visions to people in the cornfield, which of course doesn't send up any red flags because you'd expect that. That's how the previous version went. That's how the book went. But when they actually meet up with her, she's not in a Nebraska setting. She's in a retirement home. So it doesn't make any sense until the very end. They kind of do a callback to it in a way that's really confusing and also doesn't make sense. But it was very disjointed.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But you think about that role of Abigail. What was her full name? Abigail. It was something strange.
Abigail Goldberg.
You might as well have been. But it's like if you think about what the book described that character as being, you would ask for like the most stereotypical, predictable casting for it. It would be Whoopi Goldberg. So I'm not saying she did a bad job.
No, she's a good actor. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's just so incredibly hard to see her as anything other than a host of The View right now. It's like she's so public and so opinionated and so frequently in the news that it just hurts the ability for her to disappear into a role.
Yeah, she's too famous. Like that's the thing. It's like
Yeah,
it's not a criticism. It's just like she's just like, oh, that's Whoopi Goldberg. It's like, oh, why is it?
yeah,
But she's fine in it. It's, like, she was a huge star in the '90s with Sister Act
oh,
2, and
and the 80s,
Ghost.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So she's and then being on daytime TV talk show, like in a prominent show, that just makes you so famous for a lot of reasons. But whatever, it's fine. And, she did a good job as in that role. It just was distracting being her. uh,
yeah,
and also the other guy, even the bad guy, that her foil, handsome Swedish man, Skarsgård, who plays Matthew McConaughey, Randall
yeah,
Flagg
yep,
from The Dark Tower. But yeah, he's also incredibly famous too. He was also a little distracting in that sense too,
yeah,
because he should be on The View. Is my point, by the way.
yeah.
Um,
And then you have James Marsden, who is seems to be a nice guy, no real scandals or anything, but he is like the textbook definition of a pretty face, but not much behind it.
yeah, sure, yeah, I get that.
He's
He's fine.
very vanilla, very bland, very
Yeah,
one-dimensional. So that didn't work well for me either. Although I do like him in certain things, this one did not really do it for me.
fair. I'd only ever seen him in Westworld. He's the handsome, square-jawed, brown-haired
Yeah, he
fuck
was
boy.
the human. Oh
Yeah.
god darn it, that stupid thing. I'll fix that.
Oh, you
He
piece
was
of
the
shit.
human co-lead in the Sonic movies. Um, he
Well,
oh
that
it must
ruined
have
it. Go ahead.
so the thing I just knocked down I think went into your inventory,
Oh, it's in
so
my
I
inventory.
can't
Okay,
fix it.
no problem.
Anyway, but yeah, he was that. He was, like you said, in Westworld. He's in the Amazon Prime, the Jury. He played Cyclops in the original X-Men movies. He's been around quite a bit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But for Westworld fans, he might have been hard. But I mean, that's the thing in Hollywood. If you're an actor, you're going to be like, I watch Mission Impossible, and I'm like, this guy, I've seen him before. This guy's
Yeah,
very familiar. That's the risky
yeah,
business guy. It just
yeah.
ruins stuff.
And it's like his acting style is perfect for Teddy in Westworld because Teddy in Westworld is a person who's programmed to have like one mindset, one optimistic view of someone. Is like he's not nuanced in that way
Hmm.
either. So it's kind of like plays into how he naturally is acting from what I've seen at least.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, let's keep it moving though. Would you recommend The Stand on Amazon for our
I could.
lovely people to watch?
I mean, if you've never seen The Stand, you've never read the book, I would probably recommend. If you're not big into reading, I'd probably just recommend the audiobook.
Oh,
I don't really think that their reimagining of it was particularly interesting or super well done. It just, better yet, just watch the 1994 version of it.
yeah.
It's better in a lot of ways than what they came up with for this reimagining.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Very good. All right. Another show I watched on The Stand, and we don't need to go into a ton of detail. I think it was called The Power or Power. I don't know if you saw it. It's about teen girls who suddenly develop the ability to create electricity, and they start zapping bitches all over the place. It's
What?
great. It's a very empowering. I'm always rooting for the underdogs, which makes me a feminist. And these teen girls start fucking everybody up, and the world responds by going, "We got to lock down our teen girls." Except for not except for there's others, but it also centers around this one politician who's like the mayor of Seattle or something, and she's I don't know the actor's name. She is you recognize her. She's in a bunch of stuff. But John Leguizamo plays John Leguizamo in it. He's always good. I'd like him, and yeah, it was The Power or Power or something.
Now,
And
is
there's
this
like
a movie or a TV show?
it's a series, it's a show, and there's like
Okay.
I don't know 8 episodes or whatever. I think there's only been one season. And there's different like parts of the globe where people. It's not just all one little group, so they jump around quite a bit. But there's sort of a it it ten it it Jesus they sort of interweave over time. Sort of a scattered characters that whose stories start to overlap, kind of. But yeah, I liked it. Teen girls zapping people
Do they
because
ever kill anyone?
I think some people die. They don't become like militant monsters or something like that. It's not like they're all electricity zombies or something. But it's nice to see them fighting back for once. About time. It's a nice little fantasy for those of us that like to see people be put in their place.
So teenage girls get powers and they use their powers to kill.
Not to kill, to stand up for themselves. to quit having to put up with all the bullshit. We all got to stand up for ourselves. That's the message of the show. That's what's nice about it.
But they do it with violence.
Yes,
Oh,
precisely. Welcome to Earth. Okay,
okay.
all right. That's how it works. What do you think is going on here? It's not. And by the way, the point of violence is not necessarily. Or sorry, one of the ways violence is exerted is not just violence. It's the threat of violence that is also, I would even argue, far more prevalent. Not because the incidences of violence are much less than the incidences of threatening violence. So just the fact that you can defend yourself is a way of using the promise of violence to prevent further harm. In other words,
let's say that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, so let's say that you have the same plot. I've never seen this. I have no visual image of this show in my mind.
Yep.
But let's say that instead of them getting powers, they all went out and they got handguns. And then they went out to the people that were causing them strife in reality, and they pointed the guns at them and threatened them to take their power back. Would that be a different show? Would that hit differently?
As you described it, yeah, of course, because you didn't. That's not what the show is like. There's also some healing going on. There's different characters you exercise. Like there's a group of women who are enslaved by these gangsters who are gain the ability to defend themselves. Yeah, so it's not
So this
about.
is a very different world than. It's like a fantasy futuristic world,
No, it
post-apocalyptic
takes
world.
place in our current kind of era with social media and stuff. Social media is actually partly how they start finding each other, and there's like a journalist storyline. It's more nuanced than you're assuming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I liked it. It was a fun watch. I wouldn't say it was like the best show I've ever seen, but it was a fun watch. I enjoyed it. Although if you find the idea of teen girls standing up for themselves, then it might not be your thing. So,
Well, I mean, they were electrocuting people, or they
were defending themselves, James. That's different than going around electrocuting people.
who was coming after them? Was it like some sort of government organization that knew that they had obtained these powers and they were tracking them and trying to hunt them down?
Yep, partially.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And
so
it was
not like.
Go ahead.
So this is not like, oh, now I have electrical powers, so I'm going to go to high school and melt the guy who asked me out against his locker because he made me uncomfortable.
No.
Okay.
No.
that's a different thing.
But there are like accidental there are, it's like nuance. It's like it's a whole thing because not everybody receives this power with the same thing. It's not like because as we all know, humans are a very diverse animal with a variety of ways of interpreting and reacting to circumstances. So it varies. I think there's some nuance to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
but the powers.
Hint as how do they get the powers?
It's an organ. It's like a thing develops in their chest. It's around their collarbone. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a cool show. I thought it was okay. I'm hoping for more seasons.
Okay. Yeah, I might look up a trailer for that.
That's right. Now that I'm in my 40s, I was a fan of teen girls back when I was a teen, but these days it's creepy. No, I'm just always, I see oppression all over this fucking oppression planet, and I like, I'm okay with even in a kind of fantasy scenario where people who previously might not have had the ability to stand up in a way suddenly gain such a thing. So whatever, that's fine. It's all good. It's all good. Any other shows you liked, or I'm going to talk about The Witcher before we jump into the movies.
Oh no, I just had one follow-up question, which was, did they ever take electric dumps in people's beds?
Yes.
Okay, move on.
They leave a pile of urine that is stays electricity, like a Batman trap. And if you step onto it, you lose 14 hit points.
Now you're speaking my language now.
Yeah, totally. It's fun. And especially if you have electric urine, don't use a waterbed. By the way, my thing about water, have you ever been on a waterbed, James?
I can't say that I have.
I have never slept on one. I've been on a couple, like as a kid, someone's house where they had one or something. But I do have a memory of it just being like, seems like it'd be really uncomfortable. I'd rather open it and sleep in the water, like a pool, like a little puddle. Why do people sleep on top? It's a huge bladder.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, I don't know much about spinal configurations and chiropractic and stuff, but it doesn't seem to me like you'd get a lot of consistent support if you're on something that moves around like the surface of the ocean.
Right, right. Yeah. It stays contained, yeah, for sure. I don't know. Yeah. And water is one of those like substances it's hard when you push on it. Like it's like concrete. If you hit it fast, the faster you hit it, the harder it pushes back at you. Unlike it's Newtonian. There's Newtonian fluids or something. I'm getting it wrong,
I
but
think
yeah, there's different ways. Different,
non-Newtonian or
yeah,
yeah.
non-Newtonian and Newtonian. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. It's not the. We don't need to go on about that. What else was I saying there? Oh, any other shows that you've watched? I know we've watched a ton. We're gonna talk about One Piece in a little bit more detail, but I did want to rant
Uh,
about The Witcher.
yeah,
The
I'd say The Witcher is
fucking
probably the next one that I tried to watch unsuccessfully.
I felt so. I don't even think we got to the end of it, right?
I
I,
don't
I
think we
think I don't
cared
think we
to.
did. Well, wait, no, we did. I could not believe. Okay, so I played Witcher 3. I didn't read the books. Uh, some writer in Transylvania wrote the books like 100 years ago. No, that's not the case. But the books are like a Lord of the Rings kind of thing, right? Like a whole world. It was a very rich, like filled out universe of stuff, as far as I understand. Polish, I want to say.
I think
Could be
so.
wrong. Yeah, and um, so kind of a beloved property, and you want a show to be good. And like season 1 and season 2 of The Witcher, I did watch. I didn't quite enjoy those very much. I thought Henry Cavill plays The Witcher, and I think that casting is excellent. You know, he looks quite a lot like the character really fills that out. Although
Yeah.
now seeing all 3 seasons, and you know, he's the guy who played Superman. For people who don't know, um, he's a very boring actor in my opinion. I think most of his charisma comes from the fact that he's just such a specimen. He's just such a classic, just hunky human male, right? And that's why he gets those roles. But I don't think he's a great actor. Not that he's a bad
Yeah,
actor. I just is kind of he doesn't have a lot of notes on his clarinet. Let's put it that way.
yeah, if you took his abilities, his intellect, his acting style, and put it into the body of Dustin Diamond, it when he was alive, it wouldn't have this. I think you're right. I think his physicality and his presence is really what makes him so interesting. That and the fact that he has a genuine love and care of the source material that he's behind to the point where he researches and really wants things to be true to the source. That's kind of why I respect him. He
Yeah.
doesn't pretend to be something he's not. He's a big nerd in a big strapping body, and he actually knows what he's talking about when he plays things like Superman and The Witcher.
Right. Yeah, I do like that about him. I know he's a big Warhammer guy, I guess. There's like a
Oh
clip
yeah,
of
yeah,
him and a dude on a talk show getting into Warhammer, and apparently he's attached to some Warhammer
yep.
show that might get made or something. So yeah, that part of it I like. I don't mean to be crapping on him. I just find that like his presence is nowhere near enough to carry this entirely fucking horrible show, The Witcher. Like
Yeah.
I normally come at things with, and by the way, Dustin Diamond, for those that don't know, is Screech from Saved by the Bell. In case you didn't know that reference, that's why James
He was the original Witcher. Yeah.
the original Witcher. Yes, the original guy who does Ard and Earden and casts
Yeah,
spells upon the floor.
he kept Mr. Belding's office clear of griffins.
That's right. That's right. Yep. I like that they did an alcohol episode once where they all get into a drunk accident or something like that, and they have to be serious and like, oh, don't drink and drive, kids. And that's true. You shouldn't drink and drive. So The Witcher, I have such tolerance for shitty TV. I don't really care if something is good or bad in a sense, meaning I just like to inhabit the world and the vibe. And of course, yeah, I want everything to be as good as Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever when it started getting bad. And I even liked the last episode of Game of. I even liked season. I didn't hate Game of Thrones the way others people did. I wasn't even all that disappointed by the Arya ending. Not that we need to reignite
Oh
that
my
one.
god.
I'm just saying, like for me, I don't. I save most of my negative emotions for like my political kind of like ingestion, like the way I do like my other show and like the way I look at the world and politics. But when it comes to shows and movies, if it sucks, if it's not good, disappointing, sure. But you know what? Let's give it. I always have hope. I always hope that something is going to be great because occasionally they do make great shows. And just on the sheer nature of how marshaling entropy into a show, there's organizing a complex process into something creative like a show or a movie, naturally there's going to be a distribution of quality So not everything's going to be great. So you're always going to be disappointed if you're constantly setting yourself up for that expectation. I don't mean you precisely, James. I just mean like in general. So I really, really wanted to love, like, even if Witcher was kind of boring or kind of bland, I just wanted to be in that world. I played the game Witcher 3 all the way through on Death March, which is like the hardest level. And I'm only bragging about that because I want to get laid. No, but I didn't actually realize I was on Death March like halfway through. But by that point, I was good at it. You know, you get good at whatever level you're at. So I was like, I kept playing it. And so I really like, but so they made this show, and I don't know what their budget was. I'm not sure what kind of production problems they had during the time, or what kind of like different people got attached or unattached, or it seems like it was made by the Three Stooges if they were all like whacked out on ad, or I don't know, a whole bunch of things either went wrong, or I don't know what the fuck, because every single season 3 especially was impossible to get my head around. My the dominant feeling watching The Witcher was just confusion, and just, but not even just like confusing about like, oh, okay, well, we'll find out later why they're doing that, because a lot of times directors or whatever showrunners, they tease you with information, they let you know something, and then they know you'll be a little confused, but you trust them to carry you forward so you'll learn later. In this case, it was just like, wait, why did the word I came up with was motivated. Or unmotivated. Every single decision in terms of editing and dialogue seems unmotivated. Like, I don't know what they're talking about in any scene, or why one edit to the next makes any sense at all. I know there was some like cavalcade, or like, plot wise for season 3, there was some sort of meeting of magicians or mages or something, and then they were going to I don't know. And then I know there was electricity that zapped the tower at one point, but I just found the entire experience not just boring, not even forgivably like kind of subpar, like I was saying, like a lot of things are, but like actively frustrating to the point where I was resenting watching it. Which of course I don't have to watch this shit. Why don't no? That's stupid. But like I felt obligated because I played the game and I wanted to talk about it. And I like that world. I love pretty dresses and big weird jewelry and big strong hunky men and big strong hunky women, and I love all that medieval shit and castles. I like it when they put carpeting on the walls. I like when there's bowls of fruit and wicker baskets and magic and candles and torches. I like all of it. Magic swords. Fuck yeah. Let's do it. We're in Valheim right now. But my God, I could not enjoy that show at all. It just felt like I was being poisoned. Your turn.
Oh, yeah, you basically said everything I was going to say. The point I was going to make is that it was horrendously boring, but it was more than boring. It was aggressively offensive and frustrating to watch. You couldn't understand what people were saying half the time because the mix of the audio just had them
Yeah.
mumbling over top of background ambience. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't even care to strive to understand what was going on because it was so uninteresting compared to what the show could have been.
Yeah.
I don't need to have these costume parties of them dancing around in fancy clothes. I need Geralt of Rivia. I probably said that wrong, but
That's
I
right.
need him
Pretty close.
going from town to town, taking bounties for monsters, going into the woods, going through adventures, slaying the monster, and returning to town to capture his bounty. And then the next week, he's going to go someplace else and do it again and again and again. I need an X-File type of show that leans into the interesting parts of this world. I don't care about the political ramifications of Nilfgaardians moving into a kingdom and mages holding conclaves, and I just do not care.
Well,
So
yeah, go ahead.
no, I mean maybe it's just not the kind of show for me. It's just it like you said, the casting of Cavill was great, but I think everyone else was just horrifically miscast. The story does not make any sense. It does not captivate or immerse you in any world. And as the seasons went on and on and on, I kept thinking it's got to start getting better. It's got to start getting better, but it only kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I completely understand why Henry Cavill would walk away from the series. He was even citing that the writers didn't even understand what they were writing.
Hmm.
and he knows the source material far better than I ever will, and I trust him that he would walk away from such a huge project. I trust that his intentions were pure and that they were good, and that it justifies my dislike of the show, because for me it's just all in the writing. It's not a good
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, and I'll offer grace to everybody who works on a show like that they wanted it to be a good show. I don't think anybody ever said, not that you said this, but no one sets out to make a crappy show. No one wants a show to be talked about the way we're talking about it right now. Like, I think everybody who works in that industry cares to make a good show. I think I could maybe take issue with the bosses, generally the asshole executives at the top of these companies that just control the switches of money and the distribution. For some reason, we give them all the power. So yeah, I can definitely go down that road for sure. But as far as like the creators and the people who wrote it and write it and all that stuff, but they whiffed bad. I mean, some serious shit went wrong in terms of making this into an. It's just unintelligible completely. It did make a little more sense as the season went on, just because I kept seeing the same characters, sort of. But I didn't know who was on which side. Like the way they developed the kind of continental politics of the war that's brewing between the Nilfgaardians and the other the Scoia'taels, the squirrels. Like just everything about it was just poorly. It wasn't even like they missed the mark. It was just like, are they trying to confuse the audience? Like, I have no idea which meeting of rich assholes in some, castle setting is which political side that is. Like, is that which army are they talking about? Who's who? Like, contrasting to like Game of Thrones, which of course when they're changing the settings so drastically from like the winter north to the busy metropolitan King's Landing, and then you have like the southern snake area. They call them the sand snakes, but like the kind of Dorne, I think that's called. So maybe the setting there helps, but the storytelling of Game of Thrones, even though they're introducing an entire continent in conflict, they do it in a way where you start to actually grasp what the hell's going on and why one, or which sort of affiliation one character is, or even the nuances of their possibly flexible affiliations like Littlefinger, et cetera, et cetera. But damn it, I had another thought there that I was going to get at with the world building. Oh, like you said though, like X-Files is a great model. Like why couldn't we have just seen a really tough, weird, like he's basically a ranger, like Aragorn, right? Like he's like a Witchers are sort of this like class of weirdos that have special powers that take monster contracts and they like help out where needed. I imagine some get involved like locally, politically, I guess maybe settling disputes, whatever. They video game adventures, right? Like quests, basically. And some girlfriends too. He should go bang the apothecary lady or the herbalist, who I think is in the show too. She's the lady who has all the flower powers.
Triss Marigold.
Yeah,
so
Triss
you could romance her in the games, but she doesn't even look remotely like she does in the game in this show, and there's appears to be no connection between him and her in the series.
Well, there's that, but like it okay, so here, I mean, we've already kind of spoiling it, but like there's one dude in the show, and it's like in one episode where he is a werewolf, okay? And I don't remember how they interact with him in the show, but he's a human, and then he like becomes a werewolf or something, and they have to deal with it. But it's like they saved him, so instead of killing the werewolf, they have some like rock that makes it so he doesn't become a werewolf. So like, why not? This was my idea: do a whole season about the werewolf, where the Witcher, and so that way you can slowly start out the POV as being with Witcher and his horse Roach, while he's kind of like getting ready, and then he hears about this werewolf story. So he's got to go talk to somebody in the town down the way, and on the way there he gets into a couple fights, and then he learns about the werewolf thing, and then he starts investigating what's going on because he's kind of like Batman, and he sort of has a detective quality about him, like he looks for footprints and shit. He has a good nose, and why not a whole story where he's hunting a werewolf? But then the good twist is that they don't actually kill this werewolf. And finally, this werewolf's been terrorizing. They show compassion and understanding, and they take risks to help the guy. And because it turns out it's just a dude who's stuck in this werewolf curse. And so they figure out a way to save the guy from the werewolf to show that character. But meanwhile, you can also introduce a whole bunch of side kind of conversations and characters, and do world building of the politics, introduce the different players, introduce the different environments, by players, I mean like the political factions, via a like central container of the werewolf like rescue story, that could take 6 or 7, 8 episodes or something. Instead, it's just this like bad political. It's like it was written by like high schoolers that were like, no offense to high schoolers, but like who had never really thought it through, who weren't even like drama nerds, like just like what is going on? I just was constantly aggravated and frustrated. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I can't stand those high schoolers and their electric powers either.
I wish all high schoolers had electric powers. When I was a kid, my only tool was humor. I wish I went bald in high school. I went bald in college, which fucking
You mean
sucked.
like in the middle of class, it just all hits the floor?
Yeah.
You're giving a book report.
Just it splattered out. Yep. And a maintenance guy rolled his eyes at me because of the pile of hair. That's what it feels like now with my beard falling out, though. That certainly does. Healthcare.com, everybody. Help me out. God, it sucks. I got to go get some. I got to work on that. It's so stressful. Yeah. Anything else to say about The Witcher, though, James?
Just the fact that the next season, I believe, is going to have Liam Hemsworth stepping into the role, and I don't know whether to applaud his courage or to laugh at his naivete, but I wish him the best. And if the show can turn around, then more power to it. But I don't think that. I think that it's going to be one season of him, and then people are going to be like, you know what? I was only here in the beginning for Henry Cavill. I say it wrong every time. But I think it's doomed to fail.
Right.
But I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it turns around too. I don't want it to keep being terrible. But yeah, it's just one of those like, God, this is just like unusually terrible.
It just sounds like everything that we've talked about so far, we've crapped on. So there are things in the world that we like.
Yeah.
But,
well, I did like they did some good effects with the monster fights a little bit here and there. I really like when he uses his powers. AARD, I think, is the one where he pushes and it shoves people back or shoves dudes back. There's a couple. I mean, I'm thinking of like the entire first seasons 1 through 3 there. But overall though, it's just total just really frustrating. Even for someone like me who like maintains a very easygoing, low expectations of almost everything I watch.
All I wanted was him fighting monsters with the soundtrack from The Witcher 3. Although that I wish I remember what their name was, but that like Polish style band where it's just all women and they're going that's just freaking awesome. It has this like otherworldly, ethereal feel to it, and it really gets you into the action.
Yeah, you mean like the music that plays when Wonder Woman shows up?
Oh no, that's horrible. I cannot stand that. So
it's a good song.
It is, but it's just every time that she appears on the screen and they use it, I just have to roll my eyes. It's like, come on, you got to do better than this.
Yeah. It's like she walks into the Starbucks at the museum and it goes. Is that even the song? Yeah. I hear you. Yeah, Witcher 3. Who knows? Maybe it'll turn around. We'll see. I don't know. It's fine.
Did you ever beat The Witcher 3? By the way.
Yeah.
So
I went really far.
You remember the final boss, right?
No, I don't remember shit, man.
It was like a member of the Wild Hunt or something. And the only reason I remember that is because when I first went into that circular in-boss arena, he was standing in the middle of it doing a T-pose, and he never moved the whole time. So I just walked up to him and slashed him with a sword for like 5 to 6 minutes, and then he died, and then the credits rolled.
Oh, really? The character was like glitched?
That's yeah.
Wow.
So it kind of killed the game for me, but I still enjoyed the whole way up there.
Okay. Yeah, I was just really thorough going through the one mission to the next on the map, following each little icon around. That's
I did the same thing.
Meticulously killing whatever I could find and picking up whatever I could find to pick that would let me pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Which
same here.
I should do with the cat's barf. I don't pick it up. I just leave it. Dry barf is easier to clean up than wet barf. There's a tip for it.
By cat barf.
I was encumbered. Yeah. We did play one. I don't know if that made it into a video where we were doing a Skyrim playthrough like years back on Suck Professor, and you sat down with me and I showed you my character, and I grabbed a butterfly out of the sky and got a butterfly wing. Yeah, a butterfly wing, and it made me over encumbered.
That was the greatest thing ever.
One butterfly wing, and then suddenly I can't walk anymore.
Yeah.
I was I was living right under the edge there. That kind of does capture my entire life. I just squeeze under enough not to die somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Witcher, let us know, guys. What do you think in the comments? Did you like it? What did we get? Maybe we missed something. Maybe there's a reason to try again. I'm not going to watch it again. I would never. I do enough self-flagellation as it is. Okay. So, One Piece. Do you want to talk about that before we just,
Yeah,
or do you want to
sure.
list a bunch of movies and then go back to One Piece?
Yeah, we could do One Piece.
Yeah, we're in. All right. We'll call
Yep.
this the show section. So, dude, One Piece is you could probably introduce it better than I did, but you introduced me to it, and I didn't know anything going in. It's a live action adaptation of like apparently what's a beloved, very long running anime cartoon. Well,
Yeah, it's
anime cartoon's
I,
redundant, but that's
I think
is it a manga?
I think the manga first started, I want to say in 1997 or so, and it's still running through today. Now the show is kind of winding down. They're getting close, very, very close to their end goal. I am kind of following that, but it's got something like 1100 chapters or 1100 episodes or however
Wow.
you want to say it. So there's an immense amount of source material to play off of to keep driving this for 6 or beyond number of seasons based on how they deal with the pacing. But I think that someone said that if you take all the episodes that were covered in season 1 of One Piece, there's an and you keep that pace going, you have enough for probably like 60 more episodes or so.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So this show has been around since '97, and are anime seasons? I have no idea. Are they like 30 episodes? 30, like so, it's obviously a lot. It's so there's a
Yeah.
ton of stuff, but besides the fact that that's great, that means there's a nice long life. The challenge of taking anime and converting it to live action, to me, that's really ballsy. That's like because it seems like that's the probability of screwing that up would be
Oh yeah.
incredibly high.
I mean, look at Cowboy Bebop.
Exactly. I don't know what that is. That's an anime show.
Oh, it was a beloved show. I absolutely loved Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
I still recommend you watch the anime today.
Oh.
I have not seen the Netflix adaptation of it, but the overwhelming, resounding opinion is that it was a catastrophe.
Okay. Oh, so they did a live action. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I'm not
It-
an anime guy. I've seen the Studio Ghibli movies. I watched Sword Art Online one time. As occasionally I check the anime section on the streaming apps, but usually I'll take a risk on one. I'll just all right, whatever, that one looks fine, and then more than often kind of like, what the fuck? I don't know what the fuck is going on here. This is weird. There's a whole bunch of weird like child gross like anime gets a little bit freaky, and the kind of like there's a lot of world of anime. What am I even trying to say there? You know what I'm saying, right, James? Like it gets real
Yeah.
exploitative
I don't know if
or
it's a
creepy.
cultural thing or if it's just subcultural thing, and but there is quite a bit of questionable content when it comes to young females and anatomical structures and
Right.
physics and things like that. I'll leave it at that.
Animation, yeah, cartoon physics tend to keep those boobs moving in a certain kind of way. Anyway, that's a whole side of it I don't really ever see, other than just I see that there's a ton of anime and it seems to be very popular. So like as with everything, there's a distribution of the type and the distribution of the kind of quality and whatnot. But what the hell was I saying? Oh, Attack on Titan. I watched. That was great. That's actually a really fun watch. If anybody hasn't seen that, then there's a reason that's a really popular one too. But anyway, I had not heard of One Piece, and so we watched it, and it's really great. Like it's one of the better shows I've watched, I think, in the last few years. Honestly, like I found myself quite. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed that we got to know them. They do a really good job, kind of being live action, but also it's liberating because it follows sort of cartoon logic, right? So like from one scene to the next, it doesn't necessarily they skip ahead pretty far in terms of what just happened, but you're not confused, or at least you don't feel it's not disorienting the way the Witcher jumps were. And so spoiler time, or but like it's about a kid who aspires to be a pirate, and he's always wanted to be, and he's kind of a very ferociously single-minded, kind of a charismatic sort of leader. But he's young. He has a straw hat, and he's kind of a poor kid. He's from a village, like a ocean village or something, and so it's about pirate dynamics within this like a kind of a silly cartoon world, sort of. But they challenge. I mean, it's live action, so like the fight sequences have to be. I don't know. They do a great job. I'm not sure. I'm not explaining it well, but considering the leap from anime to live action, they managed to pull it off, in my opinion, as a person who had no idea what the anime was about. Go ahead, you talk. I lost the thread on that one.
Oh, I mean, like you were describing the main character, whose name is Luffy, who is like a single-minded, optimistic person who has one goal in mind and never gives up on his dreams. That is a very, very common anime trope, I would say. The other One Piece and Naruto, I think, are two of the longest runnings, or Naruto ended. Now it's into Boruto territory, which I don't know a whole lot about. But the characters are very similar. They come from backgrounds where they're not particularly well received. You know, Luffy is kind of a poor kid who's you don't really know who his parents are, whether his parents even matter in the grand scheme of things. Naruto's parents die in the very beginning, and he's raised as this outcast in his city. The leader of Naruto's world is the Hokage, which is basically the president, or so to speak, of the town. And his goal is to become Hokage, and his mantra is, "I never give up. That's my ninja way." Luffy wants to be the king of the pirates, and he won't give up on that dream. Zoro wants to be the greatest swordsman who ever lived. He won't give up on that dream. Usopp has his dream. Nami has her dream. It's a very formulaic kind of way to construct a story, but it works very well. But it's one of the hardest things you would think to bring to live action, especially One Piece, because you're dealing with an anime that is so diverse from the world that we live in. There are characters that are 40 feet tall, and you have characters that are 2 feet tall. You have, anthropomorphic things like birds that talk to, or not talk to, but birds that are flying around delivering mail. You've got phones that are snails whose mouths move. You've just got this wacky, wild, flamboyantly vibrant, colorful, unique world that you have to do justice to and do it right, or else you're going to lose people almost immediately. And I think what really made this one excel where others have failed is that the creator of the One Piece series is a guy named, I forget his first name, but I know he goes by Oda. But he was intimately involved in the casting, the writing, the directing, and the adaptation of the anime to the Netflix live action. He knew what to cut out, what to shoot forward. He knew what, his instincts were spot on. And as long as he is involved with this show throughout the next season and the next season, they've already confirmed season 2. But as long as he keeps doing what he did for this first season, I absolutely 100% trust the showrunners to do a great job going forward, even though I have no idea how they're going to pull off some of the things that they're going to need to pull off in order to continue the story.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it seems like they've earned my trust. Let's put it that way. I actually wish I didn't know it was connected to anything. It kind of would be kind of cool to see this show without even knowing that it was ever from an anime
Yeah,
property.
Netflix wouldn't allow that though, because as soon as the live action came out, they started pushing all of this other One Piece animation. So you can't even navigate to the One Piece live action without seeing a million different splash screens of the various seasons and movies of One Piece, all of which show characters that won't be introduced in the live action potentially for multiple seasons yet to come.
Yeah,
So they,
I
they
know.
don't make it easy to go in blind.
Right. Well, I was in blind. The only thing I knew about it was shit that you told me. Is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't have told me. I'm saying like it would have been a fun experience to watch the show separate, completely detached from knowing whether it was where it came from at all, just as a thing to watch. I don't, I know what you're saying. Like Netflix exposes the show. I'm not. Yeah, that's fine, of course, and it didn't ruin my enjoyment of it at all. It just alters the way you ingest it slightly. But yeah, so these essentially basic of the plot is not to give away where they end up, but like he's trying to build out a crew, and so there's a lot of boats, and he's trying to earn people's belief in him basically, and he's kind of single-minded, and he's very kind of annoyingly optimistic and stubborn, and that frustrates people because he doesn't play by society's regular rules. So it follows a lot of sort of cartoon brain kind of logics, but it all really makes sense in a way that is pretty entertaining. There's definitely it's not like it's not perfect. There's certain parts where I was like, come on, get. But like overall, and especially as the season winds up, the way they introduce new characters is really fun. And I really I really found myself feeling a lot of affection for the main character. And that's a tough acting job too, by the way. Like I think they nailed the casting in that role because he's like a skinny, lanky kind of teen kid. I don't know how old the actor is or whatever, but who wears a straw hat and like cut off blue jeans, and like he's sort of he doesn't look like your typical like revolutionary lead. Not that he starts a revolution, but like he's sort of like a it's cartoon stuff. So he pisses off the wrong people and he has to stand up for himself and stand up for his friends. And by the end of the season, I found myself feeling emotions about the guy in a way where like when he shows up for something, I'm like, yes, he's here to help. You know what I mean? Like there's a particular sequence I'm thinking of where him like he becomes for me the main character, Monkey DeLuthi or whatever. By the end of the season, I was like emotionally invested in him as well as like the crew and everybody. But like the fact that he would show up, I was like, oh boy, they really pissed him off now. He's going to take care of business, even though he's kind of an annoying personality. I mean, in a good way.
You mentioned he's putting together a crew, though. But why is he putting together a crew? What's his goal aside from becoming the king of the pirates?
This is an episode 1 kind of thing, but like they're the king of the pirates has died and left like a mystery item or some item called the One Piece that if whoever finds it becomes the next king of the pirates, right? And so that sets off this mad rush, this sort of shit, what's that one that Simpsons references it where everybody's in the vehicles, the different trucks and small vehicles and planes flying towards us? It's like a famous movie scene, action scene.
There is a famous movie called It's a Mad, 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 Mad World where it sounds like that. Or then you have this reimagining. I think Whoopi Goldberg is also in that one, but it's called Rat Race.
That could be it. But anyway, so it sets off this kind of scramble among the various aspiring kind of pirates of the world and the sort of governmental bodies, like the military-ish sort of figures, who are then looking for this thing that this one singular figure. It's like if the Dalai Lama died, but he left behind like a big quiz. It's almost like a fucking Ready Player One, which was a horrible movie, honestly. Better than Witcher. The movie sucked. Fucking.
I've watched it like 6 times.
I read the book. I've seen the movie twice. Not good. I think it could have been a lot better. The way they immortalize this creepy weirdo dude who's supposed to be some central figure to this entire world is just so strange to me. Anyway, it was the guy's first book, the guy who wrote it, by the way, which you can tell. And I read the book. Whatever. Point is, though, that's the premise, is that this kid is trying to take advantage of this opportunity to become the king of the pirates, which he's always aspired to be. And it's sort of he has a destiny. I mean, that's kind of obvious. He's the main character in an anime show, right? Like that makes sense. But yeah, I cried actually during the last episode. Did you know that, James?
I did not notice.
No. I hid it from you. I teared up. I cry very easily, though.
Yeah, I can see. Okay, here's a question. Without giving anything away, who do you think was the best performance in the first season?
I don't like that question. I thought
as an acting ability, or
well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think the ensemble all worked incredibly well. I thought the swords guy is a little bit one-dimensional in terms of performance. Mm-hmm. The orange-haired girl is a very, very good actor. The main kid is great, I think. He's got a tough role, it seems like. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What's the right answer?
I think by far and away it's Nami.
Which one is that?
The orange-haired girl.
Oh, okay.
She has to go through so many different character changes and deceptions, hiding her true motivations until it culminates in, how it ended, which apparently I'm guessing that had something to do with the emotional reaction you had.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, yeah. The part
So,
where so I love Star Trek, right? I don't know if this is gonna make sense to anybody, but I've been a huge Star Trek watcher for years and years and years because it's the same. I watch the same show over and over and over. It helps me sleep, to be honest. It's so relaxing. Um, I guess that's a thing that a lot of autistic people do, by the way, is they watch the same things over and over and over again. I only learned like last year I was autistic, by the way. So that's why it's fascinating to me to see all this stuff in my past where I'm like, oh, I see, that makes sense now. Not that that's a not that liking Star Trek makes you okay, whatever. Point is, one of the things that jumped out at me about this kind of ensemble crew, led by this kid, Monkey DeLuthi, what a weird name, is that I don't know if it's just that's not really a spoiler here, but it's sort of Star Trek is sort of I've heard people reference the way that that they trust each other, that they show love and trust towards their friends and their crew. Obviously, within a lot of variation, sometimes it doesn't work. Whatever. Blah blah blah. Star Trek has hundreds and hundreds of episodes, so of course there's going to be a lot of variety. But when I was watching as the season was going through and the final episodes, I was like, this is kind of Star Trekian in a sense, where like what's so really wonderful is just how much the singular figure of Monkey, how much he really believes in his people, because he wants to fight for their dreams, and in return they show up for him. And so like that's where I'm starting to get emotional just thinking about it, because they show up for each other, and I think that's what's so beautiful about it. Fuck, see, now I'm crying. God damn it. That's what I
really,
really loved about it, was how they showed up for each other, and how they stood up and stood strong for each other. That's what I guess it got me. And this is the emotions I live with in my life, is I have very strong feelings and emotions about stuff. So I'm not going to hide that. But yeah, I'm not. Don't worry. The tears are still in the eyeballs, James. They're not rolling down the cheeks yet until that whiff of cat urine gets to my face. It's beautiful though. I really loved it. I just thought that it was very sweet. I thought that it had a very strong. It was just incredibly well executed show.
yep.
All right. Yeah.
I've seen the whole first season from start to finish at least twice now,
Oh. Oh yeah, that's right. You saw it
and
before we
yeah,
went. Yeah.
yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about it. I think they hit
Mm-hmm.
all the important notes. And there's so much in the anime that you would think would come across into live action with, a wince of embarrassment to see it. I don't want to use the word cringe, although I just did. I think there's a very high probability of that happening when you're translating anime into live action. But I think that coming from the character of Luffy, it makes sense. He makes it not unbelievable in the way he delivers his performance and the way that he behaves in every single scene. I didn't think it would be possible, but I think that they've nailed it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it has something in it, quality, even though it's not a video game. Although there's probably video games that came out of that world, since it's a show that's been around for that long.
Hundreds.
But something I've always hoped for in a show, and I still want to see more of this. If they ever let me make shows, which is never going to happen. Let's be honest, of course. But like, I would love to see more. Um, Not even like I like uh the structural conceits of video games, that they have hit points, or that they have mana that runs out, or that has to be recharged, or that there's characters that, even though by appearance they might not seem like they're super strong, but just by the fact that they're like a leader, or they're like a main figure, they're going to have more hit points, and they're going to have powers maybe. And that's also kind of true of how cartoon anime works, right? Like a little bit, like they have like special moves and stuff if they hit the right button combinations, or if they level
Yeah.
up a little bit, or they gain new skills, or they learn something, or whatever, or they get mad enough, or whatever it is that. So like, it sort of leans into that a little bit too, with the way you're like, well, that why would that guy be super strong? It's like, well, it's like a video game character. Like, you got to give them the champion stats, not just based on their appearance so much, right? And so they have sort of a silliness to that, but it's also like, I would love to see more of that in real world stuff. They didn't do any audio logs or like gigantic inventory that somehow you can carry around 7,000 pounds of weapons in your leather rucksack, which I like. That's like a video game thing. It'd be funny to see in like a real movie. But yeah. So it just hits a lot of right notes, and it's really, I think it was a very it had a lot of heart, I guess, is what I'm getting at. and just a fun
Yeah.
watch. And overall, each episode ends. The ultimate test, and as a video editor myself, my number one hope for every video or everything I do is I want it to feel shorter than it is. I want the ending to be kind of a surprise in terms of like, oh my God, it's already over. Because the opposite of that, or the alternative, is when is this going to be over? Like Witcher, 2 or 3 minutes in, and I'm like, oh God, we got so much more to go. This is good.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh shit, we're only halfway through. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
I was
about
trying to slip my wrist during Oppenheimer.
Yeah. I was trying to drink. You were what? You hated Oppenheimer for that reason?
Oh, it was awful.
All right, we'll talk about that in a second. But One Piece episodes fly right by. I guess that's about the ultimate compliment I can give you for anything. So, all right, good. Okay, let's jump through these pretty quickly, and then we'll get to Starfield. All right.
Okay.
Oppenheimer, James. What you were that? What'd you think of it overall?
Oh, actually, I've got my iPad with me. I think I took notes on it. I don't remember much about it, but
Okay.
let me see if I have my notes from. Oh, okay, I do. So
Right.
it's about 2 paragraphs. I can read it real quick. I don't remember.
All right.
So here we go. So I wrote Oppenheimer, overly long and ambitious, attempts to consolidate a story best suited to a miniseries into a single movie that feels like it's 6 hours long. Unless you walk in as a history buff, it's tantamount to watching all the talking scenes of a Game of Thrones series in a single sitting. Oppenheimer as a character is acted well, but effectively has 2 emotions, stoic and unwavering while covering his face in a random farce after a confusing jump cut. Robert Downey Jr. steals the show with his acting range. The personal relationships of Oppenheimer are explored at length to no great effect and ultimately felt unnecessary while contributing to an already exaggerated runtime. I could have learned more about his character and seen more emotion from him by watching him struggle in the toilet after ingesting a spicy bean burrito than watching him bang random communist women. Oppenheimer doesn't appear to care for his children at all, nor does his wife, yet continues to create them. Perhaps this was a reference to a theoretical unending neutron chain reaction that would destroy the world. Screaming babies constantly screeching onto the screen and making me wish the planet would explode to stifle the cacophony of infantile discontent. The audience is subjected to the journey of the creation of the bomb, yet is placed in the shoes of Oppenheimer by denying us actually seeing the use of the gadget outside of a test range. And after the bomb is used to end the war, rather than credits, we get what feels like 2 hours or more of political talking heads rapidly dropping names that we're somehow supposed to recall in the thick name soup bog that we're already drowning in. Iron Man is defeated by Freddie Mercury, who I can only recall seeing briefly in a scene or two prior, and Matt Damon ends up being a good guy because Matt Damon is contractually always a likable good guy. The cast is star-studded, but they're all the victims of their own success. Prosthetics and aging makeup do little to nothing to conceal the A-lister underneath. The sound and visuals are top-notch, and the movie is directed well, but I find the kind of movie the average person can only endure sitting through once in a lifetime. 6 out of 10. Whew.
Wow. And you did you put that on Rotten Tomatoes?
No.
Oh.
I write these things for myself.
Wow. Really? Fucking
It
weirdo.
was
a
horrific stinker.
That's insane. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was one of Nolan's. I think Nolan. I have a lot of faith and trust in his abilities. I guess maybe they could have made it a slightly shorter. I didn't feel like it was too long for me though. I'm fascinated by the politics of it. I love that he was banging communists. I want to bang communists. Communists are the future of society, of humanity. There is no humanity without no future without the idea that we start caring about each other, about everybody. But not that that's we don't need to argue about that. But we are going to die if we just allow. Not that you were trying to make a point about capitalism. I think capitalism is fucking rotten. I want to bang. I would bang a capitalist too. Don't get me wrong. What does that has nothing to do with it? I haven't dated in a long time. So yeah, I didn't realize you hated it that much. I thought it was incredibly well made. I actually found Robert Downey Jr.'s presence to be the main downside of it. I wasn't confused.
He was the only upside for me.
Yeah, I did that, not at all for me. I didn't think his acting was all that great. He plays Robert Downey Jr. It seems like. I mean, he was fine. It wasn't like he was like a bad actor or something, but that would be my one minor quibble. I thought the effects were great. Einstein shows up out of nowhere, which is hilarious. I thought the there's some leftist critiques of it for not showing some of the destruction of the bomb and for other things that I've seen people making in some of the circles that I pay attention to on the internet that are, all right, fine. I mean, it's inherently a movie, political movie because it is about the creation of the exercise of power and the threat of power and the compromises people make. And I thought it was fascinating, the politics of the, because America has done such a great job demonizing the notions of communism and socialism and all the revolutionary ideas that would upend the capitalist structure. Our society is not as we're all raised by people who were freaked out by that shit. It's much less as it is over time, thankfully. Including myself. Like I used to be afraid of the word Marxist because but I didn't even really know what it was. When I finally learned what it was, I was like, oh, that's like shit I think about. That's actually like, yeah, like how come fucking workers don't have more power in this goddamn world? What the fuck? Like all these assholes calling all the shots. Not that that's what it is, but anyway, my point is that like I didn't realize that there was that origin kind of story because during the 30s and 40s there was a lot of the progressive era when the FDR was in power and stuff like that with Henry Wallace and et cetera, Eugene Debs and such, which was one of the most successful presidencies in terms like the reason FDR, who was a progressive, although really he was saving capitalism from itself by providing some relief to people via the New Deal and Social Security creation and stuff like that, because all those programs did was severely curtailed the amount of elder poverty and the amount of tragedy that was baked into the society that the capitalists had designed. And so they didn't go full at all towards socialism. They leaned towards it a little bit. And those happen to be incredibly popular programs. Humans love things where humans are taken care of and humans take care of each other, even though America tries to act like we don't have a socialist background. We absolutely the most popular parts of American government are the more socialist nature of it, in those ways. And anyway, so what followed after FDR's presidency was they passed a law banning presidents from serving more than 2 terms, because the most progressive president of all time was by far the most popular of all time. They kept reelecting him until he died. But it also triggered the Red Scare backlash, which was like the McCarthy era, where they started trying to sniff out communists throughout Hollywood and throughout all this stuff. And it was interesting that Oppenheimer, because he ran in academic circles, he was a highly intelligent person, very well educated. Obviously, he was like a contemporary of Albert Einstein and all those other sort of like high profile scientists of that time. It's not a surprise that he actually had leftist politics in his younger years and stuff like that. So I thought that stuff was really interesting to me. I found that kind of fascinating and its nuance, and that the American governance society, like Americans, didn't want that was a problem for America, because we're the nation that wants to concentrate power, not distribute power equally, or at least more equitably. Equally is actually a fantasy; can't ever get perfectly equal. Anyway, so I really appreciated all that background stuff, and I thought that Christopher Nolan's storytelling was on full point. I thought the sound was quite great. I'm glad that you got to see it in a big theater, because that, seeing a Chris Nolan movie, you're going to get great sound stuff, and the music is like the music from Interstellar is some of the most like, I don't know most, but like I love that music and stuff, and so like, I've already been hearing Oppenheimer music behind other things on Instagram and other videos and stuff. So I think it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it quite a lot. I'm surprised you didn't hate it that much. I didn't realize that.
Oppenheimer was a horrible human being, not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, nor do they try and depict him that way. And the whole thing I was hoping to get out of the movie was to learn more about the science, not just the science behind the bomb, which they do touch on for a little bit, but the ramifications of the post-bomb, and how the world changed, which they do touch on. What I did not care for, especially, was after that the main action happens and the bomb is dropped, I was not at all prepared for another hour or an hour and a half of talking heads opining over the possibility of this terrible person losing his security clearance. There's nothing in the world I could possibly have cared less about than that. And yet they burned over an hour of runtime on that topic alone.
What made him I know he developed the nuclear bomb, which on the whole, that's sort of a morally difficult thing to, but he was like, I think calling him horrible is simplistic. He dedicated the rest of his life to advocating against using nuclear weapons, and they pushed him out of the program because as soon as it was proven viable, they got rid of him. And then they investigated him for his ties to, so he had to defend himself. That's what the whole secret hearing was about. So I think it's so really simplistic to call him a horrible. What was the horrible part?
He cheated on his wife
Okay.
and his girlfriends. He was a
Yeah.
horrible misogynist.
That makes him a misogynist?
Yes.
How?
Going basically implying that his wife was supposed to stay at home with the screaming babies all the time, coming home not understanding why she's stressed out, always
Yeah.
like drinking wine, trying to deal with the horrors of it, going to this new place, putting her in this little tiny house, and then making some quip about, oh, I'll just have them install a kitchen, and just not caring at all about his kids, being very matter of fact about breaking her heart by banging some other random woman. He was just an awful person.
Okay.
He
All
didn't
right.
care about other people. He cared about his own ambitions and his own success, and didn't he used people in his life as tools for his own amusement, it seemed. I did not like him one bit.
Okay. All right. The villain Oppenheimer. I mean, I would say he's horrible for contributing to the nuclear bomb. I mean, that's certainly something I couldn't argue that
goes
makes you a
saying,
good person.
Yeah.
But I mean, all these dudes were dealing with. I just think it's so much more nuanced than those particular things. And I don't necessarily consider. Yes, cheating on your wife is certainly a morally uncouth thing to do. A lot of marriages survive those events when they do happen. Sometimes it breaks it up completely, obviously, but there's a lot more nuance to that sort of thing than we realize too, by the way. And I don't think that cheating makes you necessarily a misogynist. It might make you a piece of shit, sure, in a personal way relative to the way you treat someone who you've declared an oath or an honor or whatever to. Also, more or less why monogamy is fucking stupid, in my opinion. Polygamy is also fucking stupid. They're all equally stupid, is my point. Honesty and respect and dignity are really where the foundations of all that should start. But I hear you though. I get your case. I don't think I can necessarily refute what you're saying that you think he was the worst person. But I found it nuanced and complex, and I think they did a pretty good job of showing a person in a very extreme situation, for all kinds of reasons. The military, like the Matt Damon character, was what the hell is I getting at with that? I mean, the military wanted the power. They wanted, and like the far greater crime, the far more immoral thing was the U.S. government's interest in dropping that bomb on Japan, because even though there's been the argument is that, well, either we destroy those two cities and destroy all those people, or we have to invade the entire island, and that'll just cost more lives and more blood and more treasure, and it'll take forever, much longer, blah blah blah. So that's the compromise. That's the decision, that the sort of simplistic narrative that we've been sold. But America wanted to demonstrate its power with the weapon. That was why we did. We wanted to show Russia and other adversaries that we were willing to use this. We're still the only country to ever drop a nuke on anybody in a war setting. And then, by the way, the immorality of the testing of the nuclear weapons over the next many years is also a grave and violent injustice on the planet and on a lot of the regions where some of those testings occurred, including American stretches of the American West, but also all kinds of islands all over the Pacific islands and stuff like that. So I tend to reserve my sort of anger and judgment for systems and for governments more than for people. I sort of look at people with compassion and with acceptance of the nuances. I think you and I are a little different in that way.
Well, I just think the way that the story was told, it was very reductive to all the female characters. They were all one note, one dimensional. They didn't seem to have much purpose in the story other than to serve the whims and needs of the Oppenheimer character. So it's not that I was saying that Oppenheimer himself was misogynist. I felt like the depiction of women in the story was misogynist, which I guess is more of an indictment on Nolan than it is on the character of Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree though. Like, I would have liked to have seen more of the sciencey sort of bits. I did like some of the animations and graphics and stuff. I thought that was all pretty cool. Like the little, because I love cosmology and astronomy. Those are two of my kind of things. And so, like the nature of matter and the fact that they figured out how these particles are able to be, exploited for their power is fascinating. And it's very haunting that these nuclear weapons are available to the most psychotic fucking people. Like, the way we
Oh
assign
yeah.
leaders and the way we allow power to manifest in this world is incredibly dangerous. Made all the more so by the fact that we have these weapons around. They're scary. They're really, really bad. Hopefully, in the future, humans can tell the story about how at some point the planet came to its senses, but I don't think we're going to get there. Not in our lifetimes, for sure.
No.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
So, all right, moving
Unless
on.
there's
Any more? You can say more if you want. I'm not going to
no, I'm
challenge
just
any
saying,
of your
unless
thoughts.
there's some way to disarm nuclear devices globally in one fell swoop, I don't think we're ever going to be free of the threat of nuclear warfare. It opened a door that it couldn't close again.
Probably, yeah, probably. But we have to reduce the reliance on violence as a source of security, and then that's not going to
Yeah,
happen at any rate anytime fast enough. The threat of
yeah,
violence is see, this is the problem with American society is that we associate violence with safety. We associate the preparing for violence with the presence of safety instead of we don't have our collective imagination has been erased. From our collective imagination has been erased the idea that community and dignity first lifestyle policies could be a source of safety. Instead, we look towards violence and its preparation as a source of safety because we feel afraid and we feel under threat. And that is that thing has that mentality has DNA that roots directly through our colonialist past, that roots through all of that stuff, through all the child abuse that's flowed from throughout the family unit in all kinds of ways, and it functions on small and large scales. But yes, I mean that's the nature of violence is that it's incredibly persuasive and it works in terms of manipulating someone into doing something they might not want to do. So we associate safety with violence, and that's why America is a fundamentally violent society. And our until we're able to unlock the imagination side of our collective psyche to source security and safety from a community collective kind of effort, which is something human beings do naturally, instinctively. I mean, we evolved doing that. Uh, we're in for it, But there's no switch on it. It's not like we could just turn that dial down. I mean, it'll take centuries even if we started trying right now.
yeah. So
Yeah.
everything that happened in the movie basically served to allow a certain person many, 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 many years afterwards to go on Twitter and start bragging about the size of his nukes in comparison to other countries.
Trump, you
I
mean? Yeah.
wonder, yeah, I wonder what
Yeah.
Oppenheimer would think about that if he were alive to see it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. He died in like I don't know when he died, but he was an advocate against nukes his entire post creating a nukes career.
Yeah,
But that's
it's one of those things.
hold on, that's the whole point with us. The Einstein bit in the movie is that these figures who had these tremendous academic credentials and intellects, they were haunted and tortured by their the fact that they played a part in this. It's not like they showed them morally escaping, even though it only came at the point to the karmic penalty of having a bruised conscience about it. Yeah, then you could say that that's not enough punishment or something, but it's not like they walked away from it clicking their heel, jumping for joy and thrilled with what's going on. I think they knew they were in on something that was, setting it forth a tremendous amount of risk and danger. Anyway,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
near the end of the movie, there was that auditorium scene where, after the success of the detonation, there were people who were on that team in there, and the vast majority of them were like hugging and screaming and cheering
Yeah,
and in joy over it. And meanwhile, other people were outside just vomiting their guts out over the horror of what they contributed to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's nuance. It's yeah. I agree. That's right.
Now, I did look up while you were saying that Oppenheimer died in 1967,
Oh,
and based on the way that you saw how he lived his life and what his vices were and so forth throughout the movie, could you have any educated guesses on what might have killed him?
orgasm.
Okay, that's
That's
great.
how I want to die.
That's okay.
I want
Throat cancer.
someone else to have one in the room and it explodes and gets me.
Yes.
Go ahead. What?
It
Go ahead.
created
The
a
smoking,
chain reaction that destroyed the world.
lung cancer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I just said throat cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about people who kill a lot. Let's like tobacco executives. Those fucking monsters. Those are villainous. Some villainous people lying about the science of it all too, paying doctors to tell people that they need to smoke. Like the smoking, they really got the entire like a product that's addictive. They add chemicals in it to irritate your tissues in your lungs so that your blood can absorb the nicotine faster and better, and so you get addicted to it. It's I mean, the tobacco is just one of those things. It's like, oh my god, there's so many ways corporations have slaughtered humans for their profits. And today's version of that, among many, is health insurance. I can't think of anything more vile than someone who works, and I don't mean someone who answers phones or who has a regular ass job at a health insurance company. I mean the executive layer and above. Those are mass murderers. They go to work and they kill people and they get paid a lot of money and then they come home. And we don't act like that's a fucking problem. It's crazy. If you had a health insurance, I'm sorry, I just want my thing. Like if you live next door to a health insurance executive, that person murders more people in a week, in a day, than Jeffrey Dahmer, than any serial killer ever in history. Those people are fucking slaughtering people for money, for fucking profit. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, James.
Where were we?
I don't know. A couple more movies real fast, then Starfield. One, I'm going to skip over River Wild, some show on streaming. We just watched that randomly one night. Guys out in the woods. They have some issues going down. It was watchable. James, yes or no? River Wild?
Middle of the road, mediocre, not terrible, but it's exactly what you think it is. There's never going to be a twist that's going to be pulled over your eyes. It is what it projects, or what's the word? When it's I'm losing track.
Competence.
What's the, like, if you're a boxer? Okay, here it is. It telegraphs all its moves way in advance, and there are no surprises.
Yeah, agreed. But by technique, it was pulled off, which actually brings me to, and I'm not saying it was great movies. I'm just saying it was like watchable. I wasn't like, oh god, this sucks. It was just like, all right, I get it.
Yeah,
Boogie,
it was okay. It was what it was.
watchable. Yeah. Boogeyman, though, was another one we watched, a horror genre. Now, James and I have been living together a long time, and James has learned that I struggle with horror movies. I've always had this emotional reactor in me that's pretty powerful. Turns out that's part of my autistic profile, which we only learned a year ago or so. Which one of the reasons I'm so grateful I learned finally is that it actually describes and explains so much of my behavior, and also changes the way the narrative I tell about myself in terms of how much I hate myself and all the depression that I've had over my life. But, what the fuck was I getting at there? God damn it. Boogeyman.
How much you loved Boogeyman.
Oh, horror. So James tries to protect me from horror films because he's a very nice man. And when we watch horror movies together, I often have to I'll do this with my fingers so I can't look at it too closely because it's not voluntary. And I know I'm watching a movie. I know I don't jump up off the couch and climb around. I don't go running into the wall freaking out. I just feel this. My brain, I have a very strong imagination. Honestly, that's what it is. It's in my head. I guess I don't know if, not that by the way, not all autistic people have the same profile of traits. So don't assume this is how people are. But for me, it's incredibly powerful in a way that I don't have control over. And I have a lot of emotion that's rooted in my imagination within the compassion and empathy systems that sort of funnel through all that. So horror shows and horror movies are tough for me to watch because I get all this anxiety. I'm a very well practiced anxiety practitioner anyway. Said practice there twice. But I can watch a horror movie sometimes. And James is super kind, and he's like, "Oh, well, this is horror. You want to watch it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, let's try it. Fine. If I'm in the right mood, it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't have meltdowns or something." But Boogeyman, what streamer was that on? Do you remember?
I bought that off of Voodoo.
Oh, Voodoo. Wow. Okay. Did you know it was what it was when we watched it? Or we were just kind of like, we got to pick something.
Oh no, it was based on a Stephen King short story that I'd read many years ago.
Okay, perfect. I guess that's why it's so Boogeyman is sort of like the very ordinary. It's like Tooth Fairy. It's like a cultural trope or something. not a lot to say necessarily, but it was very well executed. But it was very boring, incredibly
Yes.
boring. It was super nothing. It was very slow, and you could tell it was very deliberately slow. Like they were really impressed with themselves for taking their time and for putting themselves into these like I don't even know the fucking story. Some guy's got like shadow monster haunting him, and then he ends up infecting another family or some shit like that. It was pretty. Everything was very boilerplate, and the thought I had about it was it made me think about technique versus innovation. I think is what I was saying, right? But like horror is one of those genres where essentially, unless you're actually coming up with some kind of new plot device or some innovative twists or something like that, which is always great. Now, even if you miss, I still respect the effort. This was like they didn't try to do anything, but they did all the tropes, or at least the tropes they did use, they did very well. Like it was well executed technique, but it was like having a well made potato salad. You know what I mean? It was like having like those foods from the 70s that are like bologna and olives and grapes. Like there's a lot of these gross foods from the 60s and 70s from these regressive. It was like having old slurry, but really well made. Like it was the execution was great. The tech it was like a painting with excellent brush strokes, but just a boring painting. Your turn, James. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. No, I think it's the same thing that I experienced too. Is that I've loved horror movies my entire life, and I'm always on the lookout for a new horror movie that breaks the mold of what I've seen before. It seems like studios have this obsession with releasing horror movies because statistically they do very well in theaters because it's a perfect like date movie. It's the perfect get your friends together for a cheap scare movie. So it seems like the crafting of the story behind horror movies are oftentimes secondary to the fact that a horror movie is being created for monetary reasons. It's formulaic. It's a lot of very very dark scenes where you can barely hear anything. Jump scare type things, the standard screeching metal on
Mm-hmm.
fingernails on metal type soundtrack things. It's nothing new, nothing inventive, nothing memorable, nothing that really it made me care about the movie in any fashion whatsoever. It was horribly disappointing, but like you said, it was a competently done disappointment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I don't actually recommend watching it unless you're just like a real fan of those techniques. You know, like if you just like brush strokes and not the painting, it's worth it. But that's kind of
Yeah.
weird. Um, so yeah, okay. No One Will Save Us. You watched? Just give us a two
No
minute
one will
yes.
save you.
No One Will Save You. Don't no plot though. I haven't seen it, but yes,
Yeah, I
just came
I'd
out.
say that it's not a perfect movie by any means. It's silly in places, effects are a little silly looking and at times, but the less you know about it, the more fun you'll have with it. I watched it and I was entertained. The ending confused me a little bit. I had to think about it for a minute or two before I understood what they were going for. My mom is a big horror fan too. I sent it to her. She enjoyed it from start to finish as well, but she kind of felt kind of the same way I did. I think it's a very very good movie if you just hit play, you don't read the description and you don't look at the picture that shows up on Hulu. This is the Hulu original.
Okay.
So if you're a fan of suspense, thrillers, horror, anything like that, I think it's a worthwhile investment of your time.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how just seeing a image on screen can kind of be a spoiler. I know that's a conversation we've had
Yeah,
on this channel for years, but like
it,
that, I'm real goofy about that stuff. But like, yeah, the less like a book with a picture on the cover is going to reveal more than a book that just has the title across the front
yeah.
page. Yeah.
And the image they choose for the splash screen, I could not see it because you have to navigate to it and it's right in your face.
Yeah.
It does betray a big part of the story, and I wish that there was a way that I could have seen it without having seen that. But
Yeah.
there's no way to avoid it. Just like there's no way to get to the Netflix live action without seeing all the cartoons. They do that on purpose. I mean, it's
Fucking
it's marketing. They pay people to do that, so they're going to use it.
Netflix drives me absolutely up the wall. with its auto preview, with its auto
Oh yeah.
play previews. Because I mean, I'm particularly on the high end of sensitivities towards spoilers and stuff. And obviously, you have to just pick and choose when it actually matters. You can't freak out every time. But fucking Netflix, man. I don't have Netflix. I haven't paid for it in a while. I've only seen it on your account on the TV, downstairs. And it just, you get about 2 seconds before it starts previewing stuff, before it starts spoilering everything. It's bad enough to see the images on the cards to in the spoiler sense, but man, I find that annoying. And I think you can turn it off in the account settings. I guess I looked it up, but it is so freaking annoying. I wish each of these streamers should have like Craigslist mode, where you can just put it on a text only thing, where it minimizes information, and then you can just go through and pick a show based on a name. I mean, if you're the type of person that wants to see that stuff, I mean, you're not going to go buy a can of soup that doesn't have a label on it. I'm referring to Look Who's Talking. You ever see that movie where John Travolta shows the kids that he found a can and it says could be peaches, could be spaghetti. Who knows, kids? It's by John Travolta. And so obviously, yes, you need to know some information about what's inside the container, I guess. But it'd be awesome if these streamers had Craigslist mode. I just came up with that. I don't know. There's probably, but like text only, like give me low information on screen. Just minimize what you're going to expose me to. So if I know the title, or if I'm already whatever, I'm going to pick it and watch it. That would be wonderful. But instead, they got to do all these goddamn graphics and autoplay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. You got anything?
No, there's other things that movies do that's not just Netflix's fault. That as I get older and I'm looking for more unique experiences in movies are starting to really irritate me. Like I'll put a movie on, not know anything about it, and I'm kind of getting into it, and the premise seems interesting, and then all of a sudden all the credits start coming up, starring Morgan Freeman. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm going to spend the next 45 minutes waiting to see when Morgan Freeman's going to pop up. I don't want to, I think it's not a spoiler. It's more of it distracts you from the immersion, knowing anything about what potentially is yet to come.
Yeah, I mean, is it the worst thing? No, of course not. But yes, it's like I also do the same thing with the actor titles, with the actor names. When you see something like that, like I didn't want to know Adam Sandler was in this. I wanted it to be a delightful surprise.
Right.
Why did I have to see that name?
They're contractually demanded to be that way, though.
Right.
They want their names to be there, and as much as it annoys me from time to time, like it does you, there's entire advertising and marketing departments. They have to sell the product. They have, like you said, they can't just put blank cans out there. So I get it, but just like you said, having the option would be nice. But then you're basically turning off something that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to make available. So maybe that's why they're a little bit like, this will be the default. This is what most people want.
Which is why I guess the only thing you can do is kind of like I sort of just go. There's a term in psychology called gray rock or something. Like I just try to go a little numb in my brain and like not look at it that closely until I know this. Until I know and once I start seeing who the casting director or who the goddamn producers are, I don't care about those names. Those aren't spoilers at all. But when they show you the actors, I'm like, God, I wanted to be surprised by Meryl Streep, society's greatest living human being. And Amazon streaming does that, where they'll show, like, you'll click on a show or play, and it'll just show you like a random. It's not randomized, but like they just show you some screenshot, some shot of it, like from just the middle. It's like reading like a chapter, like a paragraph in a book, is the first thing you see when you open the book but it's from the middle of the book. It's like, what are you doing? I'm already opening the book. Let me just watch this goddamn thing.
And what does Amazon do when you hit pause if you've got to step away?
All this information with the actors and X-ray mode or whatever the hell.
It shows you every single character that either has already shown up in this particular scene or will show up in this particular scene, along with who plays them.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're watching a scene where the killer hasn't busted through the front door yet and to kill everyone, and you hit pause, it's like, oh, it looks like this guy who plays the killer is going to be in this scene. It's like, well, there you go.
Yeah. Now I know it's Dustin Diamond. God damn it. That sucks.
Yep. With
Speaking
his
of that,
teenage electric powers.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I think we're alone now. I watched yesterday on Hulu. Hulu has a better browsing system than Netflix because it doesn't have the autoplay. But you watched it from about a third of the way in. You saw the last 2/3 roughly. Overall, not terrible.
I'd already forgotten. Yeah.
It's about an end of the world thing starring Tyrion Lannister. and Elle Fanning. Actually, I remember that from seeing it. So it's a very small movie about kind of these people. You don't really know if you don't know too much about the plot, you're not sure what's going to happen, and it ends with a kind of a weird twist. Look, it does expand a little bit, but anyway. It's one of those. I've definitely felt like I've wasted my time with other stuff much more than this one. But you could skip it, you could see it. I think we're alone
Yeah.
now. And it's a kind of I like dystopian, apocalyptic premises, and I'm a big fan of libraries. So
Yep. My only real criticism of it is that you have someone with such acting ability and such a presence as Peter Dinklage. It just seemed like this role didn't really. He's like a 4090 GPU, and you basically just made a movie that was running on the Quake engine. It's like you didn't really give him a chance to show what he can do.
yeah, fair enough. Okay. Speaking of 4090 GPUs, James, you've been playing. Do you want to talk about Unity really fast, or do you just want to skip that and go to Starfield? We're already at an
I
hour
mean,
and 45.
we can do Starfield. That's fine. I mean,
Let's talk
Unity
Starfield.
pretty much they already fixed it, so it's
Unity's
a non-issue.
well, since people might just wonder, it's a game design thing that there was a little controversy regarding whether developers would have to pay for downloading and installing game. But it's fixed. It's sorted out. People can Google if they want.
Yeah, I mean, they added an additional option, so they basically took away the part that would kill small indie companies by charging like 20 cents per install. So that's gone entirely, and then
Okay.
for like enterprise users, it's now basically a fractional penny per install or a 2.5% revenue share, but they'll bill you the lesser of the two and each billing cycle. So it's a
Okay.
much, much, much more reasonable thing. They came out, they apologized, they listened. So,
Okay.
non-issue.
So it seemed like it was going to be. It's a development platform like Unreal Engine related to how
It
small
is an
indie
engine,
games are
yes.
created. That's what some people don't know.
A lot of it, yeah, a lot of indie games are because
Yeah.
people it's sort of like it's the difference between like, oh well, I don't like the way that Unity is doing things. I'll just move to Unreal Engine. It's like the same thing that you deal with is like it's like switching from Premiere to DaVinci. It's not that easy. It's you
Certainly
want to
not.
stick with what you know the best. So when your engine of choice tries to stab you in the back, it's kind of a big deal.
Suddenly, yeah, no doubt. And I have learned both now, and I want to. Yeah. Okay. So all right, let's get to the real meat here. Starfield. Now,
Ugh.
James is probably going to take over here in terms of this because I have not seen much. I did actually watch a couple hours of the opening. I was trying to avoid spoilers for Starfield and not see anything because we've got a big Bethesda game here. If anybody played Skyrim or Fallout, you that's a massive. I mean, this is like a top tier game company, right? Because those are like legendary properties,
Oh yeah,
legendary
yeah.
games, and so like this game Starfield was it 20 years in the making? It's like basically Fallout in
Uh,
space, Skyrim
yeah.
in
I
space is the
think
promise,
7 years of development time.
right? Okay, 7 years of okay, but so this is a huge release. Everybody was really excited about. Probably one of the top releases of the year for sure. I mean, definitely of the year, but easily of the last. Like it's been anticipated. And so I was trying to avoid seeing spoilers. I wanted to eventually play it, although I'm sure my computer could run it, but I'd probably have to chop it down quite a lot to play it. And I was like, I'm probably not going to get a better computer for a long time. So I might as well just watch it because I'm already seeing spoilers on Twitter and everywhere else. I'm already kind of picking up spoilers as it goes. And by spoilers, I just mean exposure to it in any way, generically. And so I watched the guy play first couple episodes. His character, I skipped over the character creation because I find that very boring. Don't give a shit. Graphics look great. The characters, you interact with NPCs a lot that give you quests, and they all seemed kind of. I was kind of surprised that they weren't updated better. They still seem sort of wooden and mannequinish or whatever. But I didn't really get a huge impression off of that. So I've been picking up other people's reactions just from picking it up on the internet and whatnot. And doesn't seem to be a lot of positive acclaim for this game. I think are there camps developing? And James has been playing it for a while. You were hesitant too. So I'm going to mostly step out of your way here, obviously, because you've played it and you've gotten pretty far, or at least how many hours have you put in? 10, 20?
I'd probably put in maybe like 6 or 7 hours total
6 or
because
7?
I've been playing in like 10 to 15 minute spurts.
Okay. But you weren't going to get it right away, and then you decided to go for it, and you downloaded it. And James has a very good computer too, so you're playing it on full maximum. So
Yeah, ultra settings.
yeah, So overall, though, like you were kind of excited for the same reasons everybody else was, right? Like Fallout in space, Skyrim in space. Like, how could you not get
Right.
excited? And you want to see some innovate. You want to see some new mechanics, maybe, or whatever it is. How did it go? Tell us now.
So I can't preface this by saying that what I'm about to say is a review, and I can't even say that what I'm about to say is a fair assessment. This is purely what my initial impressions were based on what I allowed myself to know about the product before it was released. I didn't look at anything. I didn't follow news stories. I didn't watch press conferences. I do not know what Todd Howard and Bethesda promised that they would deliver. I went in completely blind, and my only expectation was that I was going to have an experience that was as immersive, if not more immersive, than Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 4. I
Yeah.
got completely lost in those games, in a good way. That sounds pejorative, but I mean it in a wonderful way. Looking at the map, uncovering the fog of the unknown, going to points of interest, not following quest lines, exploring, learning the world and the landscape. Like going when I first played Skyrim,
James,
I
come down to
came
my
out.
bedroom. Come down to my bedroom. Keep talking.
I don't know where your bedroom
Keep
is.
just walk around. You'll find it.
But yeah, when I first started playing Skyrim or Oblivion, I would hit the open world section and immediately go off in my own direction. I didn't want to be told where to go or what was too dangerous for me. I wanted to basically push the limits of what the game would allow me to do,
Sit down.
which is
Sit
what
down
I
in this
did.
chair. Keep going.
Ah,
I'm
nice.
directing. There we go. Now we're good.
So the problem that I had was, and I guess I should start off with, I'm going to be making a comparison of Starfield to the prior Bethesda games, but I'm also going to compare it to No Man's Sky. And you might say, well, that's apples and oranges. That's not a fair assessment. That's not a good faith argument. And I would agree with you in some respects, but here's where I'm coming from. Do you remember back in the day, as computer graphics were improving, as technology was improving, there was a pretty long period of time where you would go into these 3D shooter games and such. You'd go into a bathroom, you'd see a mirror, but the mirror wasn't reflective.
Yeah.
That was a thing for a very long time. And then at a certain point in time, people figured out how to make them reflective. So if you are used to playing games where you're going into a bathroom and you can see your reflection in a mirror, and then 6 years later or 7 years later, you launch another game and you go into a bathroom and the mirror doesn't work, that's pretty shocking, pretty jarring, right?
I would think someone put Vaseline on the mirror.
Right. It's you would expect that developers would build on the shoulders of giants, that they would take what was discovered and what worked in prior iterations of certain genres and technologies and implement them going forward. You expect the bar to be raised a certain degree. So what I'm basically saying here when I compare it against No Man's Sky is that No Man's Sky, you travel, and I haven't played it myself, but I've watched a lot of videos of it where you get into your spaceship and you can fly along the surface of a planet. You can go from point A to point B and land there. You can take off directly into the sky and find yourself in space, piloting a course free form to another planet. Skyfield is not that. Starfield, not Skyfield. Starfield is a loading screen for everything. You want to land on a planet, loading screen. You want to get out of your spaceship, loading screen. You want to get back into your spaceship, loading screen. You want to take off again, loading screen. You
Go
want
to
to
the store in my Prius.
Yes. And once you're in space, the only time that you're actually in space in your ship is when you're floating in outside the boundaries of the planet that you're visiting, where you can get attacked by other ships, which puts you in this little boring, to me at least, mini game where you're just like keeping your whole health and your shield held up while trying to keep your reticle over the ships and flipping in loops and things, trying to shoot them before they blow you up. I am not a big fan of that. I was a huge fan of like Star Fox and Star Fox 64 way back in the day. And this even feels like a step back, you know, beyond those ancient games. Um,
So the
the
combat. Go ahead.
Yeah, the combat is not engaging, and what
Space
gets
combat.
me the most,
Yeah,
yes, or even the combat on the ground with the gunplay doesn't even feel particularly good. The recoil
land
doesn't feel
combat.
like it packs a punch like Destiny 2 does. It doesn't have various methods of attack. It has basically gunplay and melee. And you think about something from like Elder Scrolls or Skyrim, you've got your magic, you've got your archery, you've got your melee, you've got it just seems like a reductive version of a prior game. I
Hmm.
don't particularly enjoy that particular aspect, but the main thing for me is that I need a consistent permanent map, a sense of permanence. I need to know that if I see a mountain in the distance, like they advertised in the Skyrim launch, that I can run to that mountain and I can get to the top of it. I
Okay.
need to know that if I learn a foot route between two cities, that I'm going to encounter the same hill and the same creek or the same river or the same rock, and I'm going to learn about my environment, and I'm going to feel like I'm part of it. I'm going to feel like it's been handcrafted for my enjoyment. That everything has been put someplace for a reason. Starfield is not that. I can land on a planet next to an outpost, and that outpost can have three mountains behind it. And then I can take off and go back to another star system to sell a piece of loot and then come back and land at that same outpost, and those mountains will be gone because it's
Ooh.
procedurally generated around that point of interest every single time you come in and land. Every planet might have a different texture, a different series of animals and flora and fauna, but it all inherently feels the same. It's all empty and barren and boring. You can walk for like 15 minutes in one direction and never encounter uh, any sort of thing to explore, and if you do find something, most often it's just some procedurally generated copy paste of an outpost that you've seen 50,000 times before. And if you keep walking in that distance even further in the hopes of finding something interesting, you run the risk of running into an invisible wall. So, what it really is that Skyrim, to use as an example, is a full world. It is a place where you can go from the bottom corner of the map to the top right hand corner of the map. Yes, there's going to be boundaries because not every world is infinite,
Right.
but you're always going to be in a permanent world that you can get immersed in. Starfield is the illusion of a permanent world. It is simply you jumping from one tiny fishbowl to another tiny fishbowl, carried along by loading screens all along the way. It 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 isn't immersion breaking because it never allows you to get immersed in the first place.
Hmm.
It really, to me, Skyrim feels like I am reading a 500-page book written by my favorite author, where everything is planned and plotted and curated for my enjoyment. And Starfield likes to say there's 1,000 different planets, there's an infinite amount of stuff to do. So that feels like I'm being sold a 5,000-page book to get my excitement going, but then I crack it open and find out it's written by ChatGPT. It
Ah,
is it is a
not
totally
Dust and
different
Diamond.
experience. It
Yeah. Go ahead.
it's disappointing to a great degree, but I don't know how much of that disappointment is my own fault for choosing not to read anything about it or to find out anything about it through the press conferences. Was I setting myself up with expectations that were not realistic based on what I perceived this experience should be, based on what others have done, No Man's Sky, and based on what I've enjoyed in the past from the same developer, like Fallout 4, Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind? So maybe I'm being unfair, but it
It,
just it I cannot, the game has not grabbed me. That's why when I said I played for like 10 to 15 minutes here and there, I get so incredibly bored within about 5 to 6 minutes that I have to really push myself to go the extra 5 to 10 minutes to get to those lengths of sessions by themselves. And now there's another thing that really strikes me. When I first experienced this, I did go to Reddit and I was like, am I the only one here that is having a horrible, horrible time with this? And as before I could even ask the question, I was being bombarded by memes everywhere where it was saying, this isn't Skyrim in space. Oh, it gets good after 130 hours. Oh, it gets good if you have the right mods. And that's exactly, I'm not willing to put dozens and dozens, let alone 130 hours into an experience before it gets good. Is anyone going to sit down and order a $70 T-bone steak that only tastes good at the last couple bites? It doesn't make any sense. Is anyone going to go out to a supermarket and buy a frozen pizza if on the outside of the box it says, this tastes like garbage, but if you add these following products to it, it might be a little tasty? No.
Mods. We call
I
those mods.
Yes, I don't want to have to mod my game to enjoy it. I don't want to have to spend hours and hours and hours of torture to get to a point where something feels palatable. That is not how this experience is supposed to work.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And
go ahead.
and then I go on Reddit and I see people who are having a great time with it. They're having a good time because they're doing outpost building. They're designing and building their own ships. I'm not particularly big into that. I'm not in this game to play The Sims. I'm in this game to get lost in an immersive world. So that was never really for me. But I did see a lot of designs that I thought, wow, this is actually really cool. I like what they did there. And then I go into the game and I start trying to experiment around with it myself, only to find out that they were using like console hacks to get unlimited materials and credits, or they were using mods to unlock limitations on the shipbuilding screen that I'm not willing to jump in and mod to do myself. So
Hmm.
I find there's so very little in this game that reminds me of Skyrim or the other games. The things that I love, the things that I were hoping to respark and have recreated in this game are just completely not there. And I cannot tell you how many times, dozens and dozens and dozens of times, every time there's important dialogue and it cuts to my companion, who I'm traveling with this NPC named Sarah Morgan. Every single time it cuts to her and she's giving her dialogue, her head is turned the opposite direction. And I'm just looking at the back of her head. She's talking to a wall. When I go and pick up loot, the loot simply has names of things like, oh, this is a grindle, this is a drum beat, or something like that. It doesn't tell me whether it's a random desk ornament, whether it's a weapon, whether it's a piece of armor. I
Wait.
don't know.
So it's a word that is not an identifiable word, but there's no like accompanying graphic. There's no logo. Or
None.
there's
It doesn't tell you what it's worth. It
That's
doesn't tell
funny.
you what it is. It doesn't tell you how much it weighs,
Huh.
which is a big, big, big deal when it comes to these kind of games when you get over encumbered.
Yeah.
So you have to pick things up, get over encumbered, go into your inventory, figure out what it is so that the next time you see it, you'll know whether it's worth your while to even pick it up.
Like a butterfly
And
wing.
yeah, and what
Yeah.
blows my mind is that like 2 or 3 days after the game came out, you have people that have created mods that fix all these things. How can a game be in development for over 7 years and yet they release it in a way that is so fundamentally unintuitive and broken that a random person in the span of a few days can look at your source code and come up with something that is leaps and bounds better than what you could deliver to customers on day 1? It just and then I'm in
Right.
towns and cities, and these towns are supposed to feel like they're lived in, that there's people milling about. Yet all the people you run into are just like, you know, town citizen, town patron, town citizen, and you try and talk to them, and they either ignore you completely or they slowly turn around and say, "I'm busy. Do not bother me right now. Oh, I'm be on your way." And then half the, and I wish I were joking about this. This has happened to me over 20 times. I'm trying to talk to someone, and then all of a sudden, people just start levitating off the ground, and they don't stop levitating until they just clip through the sky and disappear.
Yeah.
It's
You
like
sent me that video. Yeah.
this is not a $70 game. This is a game of fishbowls, loading screens, and bugs, of bad gameplay, of non-immersive experiences. I could not possibly be more bored with a game than have with Starfield. If I could get a refund at this point, I would without hesitation file for a refund.
Wow. Um. So is it bad? I mean, what are they doing? Are they doing anything right? I mean, what are there people that are liking it that did not mod it? I mean, like, what did they get? It sounds like they got everything wrong. What did they spend their time and money doing?
I
like,
honestly don't know because
yeah,
I mean, it has been like Skyrim
the
came out
graph,
in
like,
2011.
Hmm.
It's been quite a long time since 2011, but just
Yep.
like you said from watching the videos, you walk up and you try and interact with an NPC, it is exactly like Skyrim. The only difference is that oftentimes they're looking in the wrong direction and they're looking up or down when there's no reason for them to be looking up and down, but their eyes are tracking you. So you get these weird cartoonish bulging eyes that's frankly terrifying. Um, Oh, another thing is that you have this mass expanse of planets. There are no vehicles aside from your spaceship. There are no vehicles.
Hmm.
You can't say, okay, I'm on a planet. My ship is here. There's a mountain over there. I just want to get in my ship, hover 20 feet off the ground, drive to that mountain, and land again. Nope. It's loading screen. You're back in space. There's no little rover you can get in to go over there. And somebody did bring this up. I watched this after I played for a couple of hours trying to figure out how I got to vehicles. And somebody asked Todd Howard that question. It's like, what's the deal with the no vehicles? And I think he accidentally was honest in how he tried to tiptoe around the answer. He said, well, we just want to be very cautious and conscious about how fast our players are seeing things. So that was his roundabout way of saying, well, I can't give you a vehicle because then you'll be moving too fast. And if you're moving too fast, you'll see the seams in our design. You'll
Right.
realize just how quickly you'll hit that invisible boundary. You'll see how our engine can't keep up on loading, things as you go too quickly through the game. It's just that in 2023, that is just to me not acceptable.
Yes, right. Yeah. I mean, even when Skyrim first launched, or sorry, not Skyrim, No Man's Sky, which was a huge flop because of the trailer overpromised a whole bunch of stuff, and so, but I guess they've developed it into a much more playable game than when it first came out. It's been years, but even back then, you could fly around a planet without loading screens. Like you could still at least
Yeah,
cruise around, and that was like a small. I mean, it's one thing for a small time developer like the No Man's Sky. I can't think of it, Smart Game or whatever the name is, but like Bethesda is a huge company. Like it's more egregious for a top shelf AAA developer to make these kinds of things. Um, that's crazy. So like you can actually be out on a planet and with a small with your craft and you've landed through an annoying loading screen. And if you just want to get into your plane and fly around, it'll force a loading screen without every single time or just some of the time.
every single time. And
Wow.
most of the time, when you're going, even if you're inside of a large building and you want to open a door and go through it, I'd say there's like maybe a 40% chance you're going to hit a loading screen.
Hmm.
And it's not the load. I mean, I'm on a 4090,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
on a
yeah,
like a
yeah.
computer, probably the best parts you can get currently, relatively speaking.
Hmm.
And it's not that the loading screens are long; it's just that they're so frequent that they
Right.
drive you insane.
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of used to loading screens anyway, no matter what. Like, I don't, we all have some tolerance for that. But yeah, if it's enough to be noticeably in the way,
Yeah,
um,
and I mean, and there's a lot of videos out there that compare it to Cyberpunk 2077,
right.
where they open a door and they're in a massive area, and no loading screens anywhere, where they'll shoot a bullet in the water and the bullet will send up a little like water artifact, and yet in Starfield, the water doesn't barely even react. You can jump from a mile in the sky and land in water, and all you'll get is no splash, but a tiny little subtle ripple. It's the graphics in the ships are good and engaging and crisp, but that the environments are just they feel like a 10-year-old game.
So, what are defenders of the game? Like, if someone hears this and they think this guy's what are people clinging to as proof that that it is a good game? Like, what do people like about it? What did they do
I
well?
I honestly don't know. The people that I've seen on Reddit who have defended it have kind of said the same kind of things. It's like, "Oh, just give it a chance. Just give it another 15 hours. Give it another 20 hours. I promise you it gets better after that point." Or they keep saying it's like, "Well, if that bothers you so much, you just download a mod or download these mods." I don't want to do that. I just here's another thing. What do you see in the top right-hand side of your screen right now?
A map,
Exactly. There are
yeah,
no maps in
mini map,
Starfield. You're in a town, no map. You're on the face of a planet, there's no mini map. You don't even know where you're supposed to go unless you have an active quest with a marker that you can orient yourself towards. It's just so utterly confounding that these decisions were made in a modern game. Not just a modern game, but a modern AAA game with 7 years of development.
yeah, seriously, yeah. Hmm. Now you have a play style though, or the way you like, especially these big sort of open world games. Though your favorite thing is just to pick a direction and go and see how far you can get to where as much as you can into where you're not supposed to be. You're not much for the
Yes.
tutorial or the initial quests. If you had started this game and just sort of followed through the initial opening quests, maybe a little tedious exploration. I like to get my bearings. I like to take my time. Your play style and mine are very different. um, which is totally fine. But like, had you done it more conventionally through the introductory quests, do you think, like, did you shoot yourself in the foot with your style there? I mean, I'm not, obviously it should
Well,
accommodate your style anyway, being a
it's a
giant
good
game.
question.
But
I
what did you learn after
I
you got
actually
into it?
Well, I actually couldn't do my style because I tried to do my style and I went to a random planet and I landed on that planet and there was just nothing there. And I would run for 10 to 20 minutes and it was just barren, boring, unpopulated. So I get back in my ship and pick another planet. Same thing, another planet, same thing, another planet, same thing. And it got so boring to the point that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go and start the first quest because maybe then at least I'll be getting some like actual handcrafted things. At that point, I didn't know whether or not certain things on planets would only appear once I activated a quest for it. Because what it felt like I was playing like a developer mode sandbox where there's no assets have been loaded in, there was nothing to do. So it took my sense of exploration, squashed it, and forced me to play it the way they wanted me to play it by going and doing the quests. And even doing that, I was still bored out of my mind.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, should I play it? Will I be bored? Will I hate it?
Honestly, when I get my new monitor, I would love for you to come in here and spend an hour or two playing it to
All right.
maybe do a follow-up video of your impressions to see whether or not you agree, disagree, or, have a completely different outlook.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I'll probably agree with mainly. Like, I have seen people talking about like the NPCs. Like, if I were to pick a quibble about like the Fallout world, is the players, the NPCs, they tend to be sort of floaty on the world. It's kind of a tough thing to get integrate a character into the background in any video game, right? Like, but developers have figured that out fairly well, though. With shadows and with making it feel like you're connecting into the world. The game we're playing right now is pretty good at that. Although even at times this Valheim does feel a little bit disconnected, but not so much that it's very immersion breaking. But the Fallout games, the characters are all kind of wooden. They sort of hover and float a little bit above the land. It kind of seems, even if they're sort of touching it in a way. And you just sort of expect that after uh 12 year, 2011 till now, or 12 years forward, that, because I've heard that complaint that the NPCs and the characters are all very mannequin style, kind of just like they used to be. And it's sort of like, geez, you guys didn't even update that shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, what? So is it not a whole new engine? Like, did they not? What? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure what
It
I'm even
doesn't
asking you. Like, how
it
did they
doesn't
get it all so
feel
wrong? What the hell happened? How did it get so
uh
bad?
maybe they were just overly ambitious and they thought that the way they design things by not putting vehicles in place, by not allowing you to travel on the backs of animals, that you can build an outpost anywhere you want, and do like a little Sims building things. Maybe they thought that that was an acceptable replacement for the loss of an immersive world, but for
Can,
me, it's not.
is
It,
can
it
I
never
build?
will be.
Can I build a big base? Like Minecraft is pretty rewarding in that sense. Like, no matter where you are, you can just start moving shit around
Now,
and build
I,
something.
I believe
Valheim
you
is just like
can.
that too. Is it like
Yeah,
that at
I
all?
haven't. I think it is somewhat like that. I have not. I'm not. I have no interest in that, so I have not explored that yet. But from what I've seen on Reddit of all these like really insanely impressive bases that are just hugely sprawling, I've seen comments like, "Oh, which mod did you download to to increase the limit of how many units or how big your base can be, or which mod prevents you from building a ship this big, or stuff like that."
Mm-hmm.
It seems like in order to truly enjoy the game, you have to fundamentally change the game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you suddenly, if within a week you've got like mods out that are making the game way better. Um. Yeah. Huh. I
Yeah.
thought I'd have a
So
lot more to
I just
say, but
think
I really don't.
it's a big ask to say spend 100 hours in my game or mod it in order to have fun.
Right.
That's a deal breaker.
Right. Yeah. So is the combat not satisfying? Like it doesn't does it have that VATS thing? Does it like slow down?
No,
Remember
it,
that
it does
stuff?
not
And
have the VATS thing from Fallout 4 or any of the
yeah,
other
or
Fallout
even something
games.
similar.
Yeah, it's just it's just like pointing and clicking with guns with very little recoil. I mean, there are shotguns, there's rifles, there's like little SMG style guns. You can go a melee route, but none of it feels impactful. I mean, when I fire a sniper rifle or a long range rifle, I don't feel like a kick. I don't see the characters react. If I shoot them in the leg, I don't see their leg blow back.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any dismemberments so far. I don't know if that's even a possibility.
Yeah, that was
Um,
one of the best
it,
parts. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
it just feels like I'm playing something that is early in development, and nowhere near ready for release.
Yeah. You got to try Star Citizen. That would look amazing on your computer.
Okay.
I'm not. I mean, it's like one of those alpha games. It's like they've raised like $500 million or something, but it's permanent
Ooh.
alpha sort of thing. But it's like beautiful. But I'm not sure how. You don't just go buy it. You got to do some look into it first. But it's a big star world, like star system. You explore star systems. It's a big space game. Star Citizen, it's called, I think. But again, look into that first. Wow. Okay. Well, shit. I was just going to ask you something else. So the quests aren't satisfying. Like, is there anything redeeming? Like, what
Well,
do you
that
like?
that is another thing that I'm glad you mentioned because
Mm,
the way that quests work is that you can go to like a space station and this guy will say, "I need you to go and collect a debt from the smuggler over in New Atlantis galaxy or something." So you'll go ahead, get in your ship, fast travel in your ship loading screen, go
yeah.
up to space loading screen, and then you have to jump between like multiple galaxies to get to the one you're looking for. So it's like seven more loading screens. You finally get there. You get up to the person's house loading screen. You go in, you talk to them, you get what you need, and then the quest will say return back to the original NPC to collect your reward. So it's back loading screen, back in your ship loading screen, back seven galaxies loading screen to go all the way back to him. Isn't this is supposed to be space? Can't I communicate over comms or something? Can't I just transfer credits through some
E-
intergalactic banking system?
email. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
why are they making me do this over and over and over? It's just painful.
Yeah. There's no Venmo. There's no PayPal. Like what? Like why? Yeah. You got to
Nothing
hand
like
deliver
that.
the credits back to the. Yeah. Is that like so like the NPC will be like my mother needs salt for her fish pie. I don't know if that's the,
Yeah,
and then it's like, oh, here's 200 credits, and you go like, but I just flew across several light years and 4 star systems for this mission. Like, is it? I don't know. Yeah, is that right, or is
yeah.
it's sort of
It's
tedious?
exactly like that. And
Right.
then, say it's an
Fish pie.
NPC you spoke to in a city or something, and you don't have it set to your active quest. Well, good luck finding that NPC again because there's no mini map that's going to help you find them.
Oh, is there a quest selection thing where you can target the quest?
Yeah, you have to do that. You have
Oh, okay.
to go into your menu, press L, set it to your active quest, and then it's going to give you a little marker that you can then use to try and figure out where this person is.
Yeah. All right.
And
Huh.
the other thing that is just really bizarre to me is that the way you navigate through menus are different depending on what menu you're on, and you're always in your menu. On some menus, use arrow key, right arrow key. Other menus use A and D. It's just inconsistent UI all over the place. And I think there's mods already in place to fix that.
Wow. So wait, if you press left and right on one, and it'll stop working on a different menu, and then you have to go A and D.
No, no, different menus. So, like,
Yeah, I
if
know,
I'm
but
looking at
like,
my world
yeah,
map, it works one way. If I'm in my inventory, it works another way. If
right.
I'm on like a customization shipbuilding screen, it works another way. There's no consistent control scheme.
Oh, ship build. I think it said shit building. I was like,
Oh no,
actually, I
I
am a
wouldn't
little
say that.
hungry. Yeah, I could go for some shit building. We should call eating shit building. Wouldn't shouldn't
I
we?
mean, it kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is. Your mouth is just the top of your poop hole.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
mean,
That's
yeah,
politics. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yep. So I would just say to make a very, 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 very long story short,
Mm-hmm.
I do not recommend anybody buy or play Starfield.
Oh my God. Are they going to update it? Is it one of those No Man's Sky things where they're going to go, okay, all right, well, we fucked up, but we're going to work on it. Don't worry. We got a lot of money. We got a lot of employees. We'll do some
I
shit.
would be shocked if that happens. Bethesda is very precious about their game style design.
Mhm.
And to be fair, their game style and their design, I've loved it over the years.
Yeah.
It's just that you can't take something from 10 plus years ago, copy and paste it into a game in 2024 and expect us to still be okay with it.
Right. How does it compare to Red Dead Redemption 2, which I think is
Oh my
probably
god.
one
No,
of the best games of the last
now
10 years?
that is a fantastic question. The graphics in Red Dead Redemption 2 are just absolutely stellar. They feel
Yeah.
real, they feel organic. Waterfalls, water itself is just amazing. You can stand on the top of a hill and just watch the leaves sway in the wind in the
Right.
distance on trees and just be completely relaxed. And
The birds
your
flying
your
around,
horse physics,
yeah.
oh, it's
Yeah.
just beautiful. And that came out quite a long time ago.
Yeah. 3 or 4
The
years at
other thing
least.
is that, like, if you're controlling your character Arthur Morgan in that one, and you fall down a cliff, you're going to be tumbling down the cliff, hitting your
Yeah.
shoulder, then rolling your shoulder, and then collapsing. You're going to be ragdolling in a realistic way. In Starfield, when you fall down a cliff, your character is just standing upright, rigid, and is just sliding like a cardboard standee over rocks
Oh,
until you get to
really?
the bottom, and then it tells you how much damage you've incurred.
So like, really? Like it doesn't like so there's no like it's just like vertical animation, like
Yeah,
it stays kind of standing position while he's going
yeah.
down a hill.
I I have
That's fun.
fallen and jumped off so many cliffs, and I've never seen my character laying on the ground or
Hmm.
anything. It's just I'm always standing up.
So when you clean a buffalo, do you skin it like all at once, or does he not like spread it open? Like yeah, like when yeah. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of those games where if I could have enough money to never work again, the first thing I would do is spend a year, maybe not a full year, but like I would want to spend like a month or two just doing all the drugs in the world and playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and trying to immerse myself in its absolute perfection. I think it's one of the like it's like an achievement in terms of
Oh yeah,
gaming. Like, in 40 years we'll look back on it and be like, well, it's not as good as it used to, but like I think RDR2 is just a stellar achievement, and it's an advance on a previous legacy of like
right.
game of Grand Theft Auto, which is another one
Yeah,
of those major things. So Rockstar is
rocks.
certainly
Yeah,
outpacing Bethesda
right.
in sustaining its legacy. Nice sentence,
Absolutely.
eh?
They knew they had to up their ante for, every time it's got to be
Yeah,
bigger and better and more impressive.
right.
And Bethesda just seemed like they did what they did last time.
So there's like, yeah, I mean, I've played a good bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 and loved it, and just but like even there's like an organic feeling to the way you discover quests and stuff, right? Like you can just stumble upon
Yeah.
something, and then suddenly you're yeah. And so does this have any promise of that, or is the inventory
I
system? I know I'm just kind of two
I have
questions, but
heard from people who have made it further into the game than I have that
mhm.
they've encountered like ships that are just abandoned and floating in space, and when they go onto the ship, they find notes or audio logs that tell the tale of a married couple who were stranded in space and running low on oxygen and food, who didn't know whether they were going to survive or not. So
Yeah,
there are, I hear there are
those are
elements of that in
swingers.
the game. I just haven't gotten far enough to see those.
Okay.
But I can't tell you how many times I've landed on the surface of a planet and had my entire spacesuit on, and then I see like an NPC walking around naked with no helmet on, no spacesuit on, just his underwear, and it was like, "Howdy, how's it going?" It's like,
Oh my
why is
god.
your head not exploding?
Well, maybe they live on the planet. Maybe they've evolved there, and they have the ability to withstand the pressures and stuff. Like, is it like Star Trek, where there's like primitive societies that you come upon, and advanced societies, or is it all just sort of like the same but slightly different town and the same society, like same
Yeah,
continent,
I mean, I'm very
like
early in the
America?
game, but I have not seen another NPC that is anything other than human.
Okay. Have you ever played Outer Worlds?
No.
I think that's the right name. It's a space kind of first person shooter game that I think it's Outer Worlds, but it I actually it was very well received. It got very good reviews. It's pretty good gunplay. It's decent little environments. It's a little dated by today's standards because I played it about a year ago. I didn't get very far because I got bored. I mean, it's a good game. I like the storylines. It's about these like corporate space corporations that are fucking over different. So it has kind of an anti-capitalist thing that appeals to me for sure. And the storytelling's fun, and the gun, it's all kind of fun, but it's very loading screen-ish once you like start traveling around from one spot to the next. Like there's a galaxy, you pick a planet, it just loads this different environment, and then there's some ships parked. So you never really get to experience that sort of immersive feeling of exploration. So it sort of loses its steam, but it's still a very well-made game. Like the story's cohesive, the items are kind of, it's an interesting world, it's got a lot of character, it's got a lot of heart and personality to it. And so this sounds like they were going for something like that, although the expectations are way higher considering. Didn't they promise that you'd be able to travel from one planet to the next? Like they misled people basically.
That's the thing. I didn't watch any of that, so I don't know what was promised. But that does remind me about one other thing.
All right.
Is when you're traveling, the galaxy map or the universe map, whatever it's called, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just a me problem, but it takes me a long time to get my mouse cursor over top of the little tiny blip that it needs to be over to basically zoom into that next solar system type thing. So I'll be on a ship and I'm like, okay, I need to go to my next quest. So I'll hold down tab, I'll open the galaxy map, I'll fiddle around, and after maybe like 15 to 20 seconds, get my mouse cursor clicked into the solar system I want, which will then zoom in. And then I'll move around for another like 10, 20 seconds, and I'll find the planet that I want. Then I'll zoom into that. And then I'll go around and look at the terrain and try and find an interesting spot to land on based on what the terrain description is, which is going to be procedurally generated anyway. And then I'll click my marker there, and it'll place the marker. And then I'll say, okay, plot a course. And then as soon as I do that, the next thing I know, I'm back in my original place, standing where I'm standing. All my menus are gone, and it goes, you cannot fast travel from this location, or you are encumbered and cannot fast travel. It's like, why did you let me go through all of that menu BS if you knew you weren't going to let me travel to begin with?
Right. Like, why did you go to the Prius if you're not going to leave the garage? Why did you carry down the dog corpse to the Prius if you're not going to actually leave the garage?
And I have not gotten to the point where I understand when can I fast travel, when can I not. Now I think that when I'm docked to another ship, I can't fast travel until I undock, which means that I have to, wherever I'm in that ship, without a mini map, I've got to remember which path I took, find my way back to the airlock, go through a loading screen to get back on my ship, run back up to the cockpit, slowly sit down in the chair, let my equipment panel come up slowly, and then tell myself to undock, loading screen. And once I do that, then I can fast travel.
I see. That sounds frustrating.
It is just so boring.
Yeah. Freelancer. Did you ever play the game Freelancer?
Nope.
I think I've mentioned that. That's a space combat game that I think it was the 2000s-ish era.
Yeah.
So it's
the only
dated.
Space game I've played is Subspace, which I loved, but old.
I don't even remember that one. Not what about Space Quest for the King's?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love though. I mean, like, you don't get to pilot a ship in those, but I love those.
Those are really old school stuff. Freelancer is a very well received game though. It was I just remember the combat being really rewarding and feeling very like you fly around in these big, clouds of nebula fighting other ships. It's like, I don't know how you do space combat well per se, not that because it's not a thing I look for a lot, but it's clearly Bethesda shouldn't have screwed it up so badly. It seems like there's obviously been models of it in the past that should have been at least inspirations for getting it right. It's fucked up how they got it so wrong, though. I mean, like, aren't they gamers? Don't gamers make these games? I mean, how did the decision making fail so badly?
I thought so, but maybe they were locked into an engine that was already outdated and they didn't want to spend the budget to develop a new engine. Maybe they didn't have the development time to do that, or maybe they did create a new engine, but they borrowed too many pieces from the old one. And they feared that if they made it too different, then Bethesda loyalists wouldn't see it as a Bethesda game and enjoy it. I honestly don't know. It's befuddling. It's just not something that is enjoyable to play from my perspective.
Right on. Okay. All right. Well, that's a pity. I mean, I like the building stuff. I like the putting stuff together thing. So maybe I might find that part enjoyable. But if all the rest of it's frustrating and the inventory and the menus are frustrating, that really kills it. That really fucks things up. So I don't know. I don't really have an interest in playing it, honestly. I mean, I definitely would try it on your machine. However, I'm not going to be buying it anytime soon for sure. So that sucks.
Yeah.
I need to get
I mean,
back into playing Valheim.
I am so much more immersed just looking at this bedroom from this static angle and seeing the shadows and the 3D
Yeah,
geometry of the design to see that it's been handcrafted. This wasn't just procedurally generated. I, you know,
artfully
I
designed
hear,
and decorated.
yeah, and hearing the weather and ambience and the rain behind me,
Hmm.
this has done more for me in the time that we've been talking than Starfield has done its entirety of my experience with it.
All right. Do you have good headphones?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. And not that that would fix anything. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. I think we've covered it pretty well. I appreciate that you've been able to share all that, and hopefully we've raised awareness of for people to avoid Starfield and
Yeah.
not
Oh,
to subject themselves to the horrors. Go
yeah,
ahead. What?
the final thing I can say about it is that I have never been a big Xbox player. I've always been a PlayStation person,
Okay.
and I didn't even know this until I put hours into Starfield that I know Microsoft bought Bethesda. That is a thing that happened.
Right.
And I didn't know this, but they did not release Starfield and apparently have no plans to release Starfield on PlayStation as Xbox or PC only. So I
And what?
don't want anyone to think that I'm just talking trash about this game because I'm more of a Sony fan than I am of a Xbox. Has
Right.
nothing to do with this.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
if a game is a good game, I could not possibly care less which platform it's on. If a game
Same.
is exclusive to Xbox and it's a fantastic game, I'll buy an Xbox to play it. I'm not a loyalist either way.
Yeah. That's fair. I dig that. So when did Microsoft buy it? Did they buy it between Skyrim? So is it safe to maybe not say that we can't know conclusively, but a whole new corporation, especially a megalith uh like Microsoft, do you think that maybe things fell apart because of the executive? Like, did somehow? I'm always fascinated about how organizational psychology works too, and also in these major corporations where the stakes are very high, especially when you're acquiring some other property and like folding it into your mold, with which means you're also assuming the responsibility to the audience that that company had developed, right? Like Bethesda, and
Yeah.
especially gamers are very sort of emotionally attached to their feeding nipples, to the teats that
Yeah.
squirt out games for us. Um,
Now this
do you think
is
that
it
maybe
was
there was some sort of corporate, not that they intended any of this, but just that the sloppiness of some, cold-hearted corporate calculator fucking algorithm person, these demons that these executives for these big companies, do you think that was sort of what brought it down or
um
fucked it up?
it might
Possibly.
be because I just Googled when did Microsoft buy Bethesda, and the search results say that they bought them in 2020 for 7.5 billion. And there's multiple articles out here. You know, these are just article headlines. I've done no research. Take it with a grain of sand. But all these articles are saying that Microsoft bought Bethesda's parent company to stop Starfield from being a PS5 exclusive. Apparently, it was going to be a PS5 exclusive, and then they changed it into an Xbox exclusive.
Right.
So did they have to do anything drastic to change it from one architecture to another? I wouldn't think so because all the other Bethesda games play just as well on the PlayStation as they do on Xbox. So
Well,
that
it
is
might not be.
interesting, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I mean, it's that's more of a technical kind of hiccup or a technical part of it, but there's also that kind of just you know the way somebody higher up probably approved things, or probably because you hear that all the time about these sorts of things where the creatives don't really have the final say on things, um, and that can take all kinds of different forms. So it's not necessarily easy to map, and it's unlikely that the person who fucked it all up is ever going to be held accountable, depending on how high up that is. Not that accountability would even look like per se, but I just hope But it does seem unfortunate though that if the creative types are the ones getting blamed for it being bad, that when it's actually not really under their control, because video games are incredibly collaborative to produce and distribute.
Oh,
So
now
I don't
this could have a lot to do with it. I didn't realize this, but you know how Xbox has this Game Pass model?
know. Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, subscription based thing. You can, certain games get released on Game Pass. You don't have to pay for the game. You pay for the subscription. You can play whatever you want.
Hmm.
Apparently, Starfield was a AAA game that came out that was released day one on Game Pass as a way to bolster sales for their subscription service.
That subscription is fucking heroin for these companies. They love their subscription models. Every more and more and more. They want to push towards subscriptions. Adobe, I have major qualms with Adobe as a company. I think it's ethical violations to offer such an unstable product for their price. They're $6,000 a month, or $6,000 a decade. They're very expensive, $50 plus a month for that freaking software. And it's very powerful stuff. And I consider myself an expert in it, 15 years experience using all that shit. And I actually kind of want to teach it, but I'm switching over to DaVinci. I almost feel like it'd be like an ethical violation to like teach people Premiere. Although I think I still might do that, but just be like, I kind of want to start making these tutorial videos and stuff. Sorry, I'm starting to, but the subscription model is so tempting for these profit-driven institutions that can't help themselves. And they're doing it more and more within every scenario. They don't want you to own anything. They want you to subscribe to stuff. They want you to rent rather than own, so that they always have the control and they can extract more value and profit out of it. Like the BMW was, I just saw a thing about how they canceled this. It didn't work. It pissed off their customers, or for some reason it didn't take, but they were going to do a subscription model for the heaters in the seats. So features of a car. And the heater is the one that was always mentioned, but like the features in the car that you'd normally expect to use if you pay, especially like a big expensive fucking car like a BMW, that they were going to then charge you monthly for using basics or stuff that like parts of your car that you've already paid for.
Yeah,
and
it's like buying a fridge and saying, "Oh, your cooling subscription ran out, so all your food's bad now."
Right. Or like this drawer, we won't open until you've pony up the $5.99 a month or whatever to keep your crisper drawer working.
Didn't Amazon get in trouble for something like that, where they had like Nest security systems, and they would lock someone out of their own house and refuse to let them back in for some reason? Or
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I'm like, with the auto driving cars and the Teslas breaking down and et cetera. I don't have all the details right in front of me, but yeah, I mean, they're just so tempted to buy that. I mean, and it's plausible that a company, crazed, profit-addled freak show like these capitalist corporations looking for as much as they can squeeze because they have quarterly profits to try to do, and to try to, the individuals within these organizations make rational decisions based on their the way that their jobs are measured, but on the types of performance metrics that are demanded of them, not necessarily realizing that they're actually harming their customer base, they're harming their long-term viability as a reputable company, and that they're actually, we the consumers and we the people in the society end up kind of being deprived of what actually creative people are able to accomplish because we have to filter it through these maniacal, needs of these of the corporate side of it, which is what is happening right now with the Hollywood strikes, with the WGA and the actors striking, with with all that going down. So
apparently there may be a deal today, though.
Yeah, I heard that there's something going on there, but don't trust anything you hear from the AMPTP or the trades.
I do not care for them at all.
Yeah, it's all crazy. But yeah, it sucks though. So all right, well. Shit, man, we went over 2 hours, and that was fun. I hope, James, if you have anything else you'd like to add, you could throw it in there. But
I'll just summarize everything that I've said for this entire period.
All right.
Everything sucks except for One Piece.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
I guess that's right. Yeah. I thought Oppenheimer was very good, though, and although you disagree. Yes, of anything anybody took away from this, One Piece. Give One Piece a watch. Sweet. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for all that, James. So appreciate all your perspectives and opinions. And to everybody in the audience, check out Winners and Losers if you want more of this, more of me. I don't know why I would. But give me some support if you're up for it. I'm trying to get my shit together. My shit has been very apart recently, and I'm working on that. And some more exciting stuff on the way too. What? Let's say what?
More fiber could help with that.
Yes, more fiber could help. We're gonna have to go to. I'm actually just really hungry. I'm just looking forward. I have a bunch of sausage in the fridge. Who the hell's that? Oh, that's you. Get out of here! Holy shit! He turned pink. He glue. Is glue the past tense of glow?
He glue.
He glue.
I never thought about that.
I think it's glowed.
Yeah.
I have glown.
He glue in the dark.
Yeah, he glue in the dark. Okay. All right, yeah. Much love to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I know this channel is a little bit of a fucking weird thing. We had a nice little stretch there with the shot by shots in the past. So there might be a few dozen people that are still going to be there. And if you made it this far, may you achieve all of the rest and relaxation you deserve. You are a shred of consciousness forced into existence not against your consent, but without your consent. And by that notion, we have an obligation to each other to make the world good and healthy and safe, and that comes from patience and love and kindness. Why am I going on about that, James? Yeah, okay. I guess that's it. All right. I'm gonna play a little more Valheim these days, though. This is kind of fun. Look at this guy. How does legs get so tan? I am so pale. James, goodbye. Say take care and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Regards, comma, signing off. Good night. Bye. All right, that's good, James. Thank you.
Oh, what was that move you just did?
Middle mouse button. Oh wait, no,
Oh,
that's with the knife. This move, the kick.
Oh, so when you have a knife out, it does like a lunging. I've never used a knife before in this game.
Oh, the knife is
Whoa,
badass.
that's
This is a
cool.
knife. I've made this guy. I haven't played this in a while, but I remember doing it. I'm a knife build because it's very quick. It's a fully
Wow.
leveled up knife, a silver knife, and I've been using the knife more than anything else. Once you get
That's
comfortable being
pretty
close
awesome.
with dudes, it's just like whoosh, whoosh, and you whack real. And then this jumping, the leaping attack is really strong.
Yeah, mine
And I
is
do have
just
the Frostner too. So yeah, I haven't played this in a while though. I've got so much further to go. But yeah, you can run around and see the bridge, and I've built a bunch. I tried to build some. If you follow me up this way, this is literally my entire fucking life though. It's just a bunch of like projects that are like 20 to 40% done, and then I move on to the next one. But over here, I built this bridge, and I tried to build these lights using the glass, but they didn't really work out. They don't really glow the way the game calculates the blur and the light glow. It's a little tripped up by the glass tiles. So I was trying sort of experimenting because I wanted to build rows of it. And then under the bridge, I wanted to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, but I was thinking like making this like a nice little spot. I wanted it to kind of look like a Jimmy Buffett restaurant.
okay.
Yeah, and I started over here on the pig farm, but never really quite followed through on that. I got a lot of onions though. I've been growing a lot of onions. That's the
Oh, is that what these pink things or purple things are?
Yeah, onions are high stamina.
Wow.
Yeah, because I found like one onion up in the mountains. So.
Yeah, they're pretty rare. That's great.
Not rare anymore. Yeah, I know. It was like 3 seeds, and I've turned it into this huge. And I have a ton of onions in one of those chests. But I need to just like focus more. But anyway, all right. Bye, everybody. Little bonus. Bye, James.